bustin', but I just back away real cool, no fussin'. I'd rather go kicking in the streets with the bums and use the knowledge to collect what? Some funds. Open a non-profit and build a damn school. And this is the story of how a great king rules. There's many that claim to know the local demographic, but don't have the nerve to tell you the truth. It's tragic, but I do. So sit back and let me spit this shit to you. You feel better when I spit this shit to you. Despite the system trying to clamp down on the people, will learn how to stand up to evil. Not evil that's across the globe, that's too far, but evil that lies in their own backyard. And fighting, it's not an option, they can't win. The government, it's not supposed to represent sin, but then again they do, and that's a problem. So let's go down and figure out how to solve them. It's not fun being a rapper that can't speak, but we do, yes, and plus we make fat beats. Yeah, we smoke weed, break up trees. Listen, bringing fat beats, that is our mission. You wanted to see us, homeboy, shut up and listen. Thelonious and Big Bennett, brother, check the vision. Mentalities of different realities. Enter the Star Trek room when you hear the boom. I be the Walkman with the super bass. Automatic stop, yes, stereo cassette player. With the delayer, freaky lyrical sprayer. Extraterrestrial rhyme sayer. I be the poetical VIC slash master of the ceremony. Tenderoni, won't you come step with me? I'm on a historical journey. Kinda like Sigourney. Implore me to represent the attorney that represents my niggas, go figure. It's the card, they call me Uncle Bigger. Niggas love your blunts, down your liquors. I read the parallel to the fiction. You're fixated on this brother's nature. Relaxed behavior, I might save your change. Flip it, rearrange. The whole concept, yo, is good for all your brain. Insane, psychotic, neurotic, black onyx, and hooked on phonics, just atomic. Bees like a bonnet, cut with the Asiatic, they all up on it. Rhyme static with the bombastic type of skill. You wonder, is this nigga Vic really for real? It's still, but only necessary in the berry. I'm milk like dairy, they quite contrary. That's scary, but I'm a dog in the prairie. I scurry to grab my bones and just bury. Lyrical flurry, go get your secretary with impeccable diction. My style might vary, so get a hold of your own shit real fast. Fucking with us, we take it right out your ass. Prairie dogs chill while the other dogs howl. Too many dogs get sent to the pound. Back on the hill, me and my peeps just lounge. Prairie dogs, we keep it on the down. Splatter, don't like gun splatter. We try to climb the ladder, wicked men get better. They make it like splatter, but it really don't matter. Cause you know we coming back to our sons and our daughters. Father, him the one who protects ya, and the mother, she will never neglect ya. Through divine nature, the people respect ya, and in this way I deliver my lecture.
Check 1 2 1 2. Alrighty. Prairie Dogs, yo. For those of you that don't know, that's my track called Prairie Dogs. The remix, the magnetic remix. You can get it on all the different platforms. I don't know how many. Let me see. Can I bring that up here so folks can see what the cover looks like? Here we go. This is what the cover looks like, and you can grab it on whatever platform you like to hear it on. Now, this is the remix that I just played, so the original sounds a little different, the music and things like that. But it's the same track, and it's part of the remix is part of a single, so it has the original and the single remix on it, and the LP is called Love in Madness. That's LOV letter N and then MADNESS, Madness, right? And it's my artist name, Empirical, by the way. For folks that don't know, my artist name is Empirical. And the more you get to know me, the more you'll figure out why I chose that artist name. I've been actually doing music for quite some time, for 30 years? So I've come through a lot of different stages of music and music technology and recording, different production stages in music. You see what I mean? Because when I started music, it was all on, tracking. It was all done by tape. You know what I'm saying? So what were the tapes called? Add something tapes. Yeah, they used to be 2-inch reels, 1/4-inch reels. We used to actually record on tape. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, but 30 damn years ago. But nowadays it's all digital, and I've been able to see that transition also with the instruments, from instruments and keyboards, people that are experts with keyboards and engineering, to actual samples, bringing in the samplers. Samplers been around for a while, but seeing the changes in the samplers, and then also today with the DOS systems, you know what I mean, where you can just drag your samples right into your tracking, independent of a sampler and things like that. So in any case, you can check it out. It's called Love and Madness by my artist name, Empirical. You can get it on Spotify, YouTube, and what have you. Now, and the name Love and Madness, that might mean something to some of y'all if you've been in love before. In this world, love is great, but whatever love you're experiencing, and however great it is, it's existing inside of the madness of this world. And this world, as you see with Jeffrey Epstein and all this shit, none of us have been growing up. I mean, I'm 55 years old, and this Jeffrey Epstein shit, it crosses my entire life, pretty much my adult life, definitely my adult life. My teenage, I was a teenage, 84, 85. I was like, I mean, when they were out here, from what it says, right, according to victims and according to what's revealed in the documents, there's complaints to go back to the 80s, mid 80s, 84, 85. Damn, I'm like 14, 15 years old. So I could have been caught up. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, myself. And let's keep it real. From analog to digital, purple. Yeah, exactly. And let's just keep it real. Sex trafficking, it goes beyond Jeffrey Epstein, right? It goes beyond, quote unquote, Donald Trump, right? All the sex traffickers ain't billionaires. All the sex traffickers can't get rid of your body and disappear and, get involved in politics and, gain power and, get all up in your military. Who knows what they can do, right? But there's a lot of other sex trafficking that's going on alongside of this Jeffrey Epstein shit that is equally as bad. And it really tells you a lot about, the world we live in. Ain't no love out there, There's not a lot of love out there. And when it comes to sex trafficking, it's one of the crimes that people tend to not care about the victims. Like, sadly enough. So if you happen to be one of these little kids out there who got caught up in this stuff, listen to your family members when they tell you, don't trust everybody. And in some cases, that doesn't even work, because look at Sasha Riley. It's his own damn family, his adopted family that did this to him. For some people, look at one of the complaints in the Epstein files. It was the uncle of one of the girls that, was trafficked to Trump, allegedly, according to the emails or according to the communications and to Epstein. So this trafficking is real outside of Epstein, Trump, or the Epstein files. Let's say that, or the Trumpstein files, right? Because the Trump administration, I call it the Trumpstein files because they could release it if they wanted to, and they're making the decision not to. Now, another interesting aspect to this, right? Outside of just the average sex trafficker, which exists, which people have to be on guard about, right? It's such a sick dynamic. It's such a sick crime. It's such a sick crime, a perverse crime, But outside of that, they're saying now that actually it's not 6 million files that's being held back. They're saying it's they're saying, you know what they say? They're saying that it's 100 million now, that they found more files, and that it is what it is. 100 million. And I could believe it. I know there's some people out there that's like, 100 million. No. But look, files are files, and what's on the files, you don't know, but they can all be related to the same subject. Yeah. So, I mean, this is spanned over how many decades? 3 decades, pretty much. No, wait a second. What am I talking about? Yeah, 3 decades. This is spanned over 3 decades easily, right? Yeah, over three. This is almost 4 decades, right? So, yeah. In any case, well, today's topic, I'm going to try to focus in on the Rancho, on Rancho Zorro, this particular place in New Mexico where Epstein, trafficked people, obviously. And I hate saying alleged all the time because some people get offended. They think when you say alleged that you don't believe the victims. Now, I believe the victims 100%. Anyone listening to me, if you think I don't believe the victims, then you're missing a whole lot in my programming because I believe the victims, but when you're in media, and when you have people watching your programming, maybe 1,000 people a day, 10,000, some people 20, sometimes 20,000, sometimes 50,000, you can get sued by saying things that you can't prove 100% yourself, that you can't lay out there. So, and then the other additive is that these are not my claims, right? If they were my claims, I would have no problem calling a person who did this shit to me anything over the internet. I would have no problem. And as you see, some of the victims are also like that, but some of them are also worried because they've been told they can be sued. They've been have their lives threatened. It's a lot that goes on with this, So it's not easy for victims to speak up, and that's the tragic part about it. And it's also not easy for people to cover the stories because there you have it. Some people, if you don't say they did it, I mean, I've experienced that on social media where I said I made a comment like I think it was on Facebook where I made a comment. If the claims Sasha Riley is stating are true, it brings a lot of perspective to how they were actually arranging these events. And somebody, I must have gotten like 1,000 likes or something on the comment, but I also got a lot of replies, maybe 50 replies from people that said, believe the victims, they addressed it to me. Always believe, if, questioning the language, if it's just speech, y'all. It's just speech, it's part of the English language to use that also, and it's appropriate. It doesn't necessarily lead to anything. Now, you can believe the victims all you want, right? You're entitled to believe the victims. Whether you can prove it or not is another thing, but you are entitled to believe the victims. I believe the victims, and I don't have any qualms about it. And I think that what they've shown already proves pretty much a crime has been committed, and that in a lot of cases you could have less evidence and someone criminally could be held. They could be convicted criminally with less evidence. In a civil case, even less, you see. So people, this is getting to the point where it isn't a matter of if, almost. It's almost like most people believe this happened. And if the laws that powers that be don't do anything about it, we have a real fucked up world we live in, especially in the West, because this is targeting the Western world, and not specifically, like there's a sheikh they got involved, I think, right, or something like this. One, is it I don't want to say who it is, but it's from a Middle Eastern country. One billionaire guy that's been involved in this, and there's others. It's gone around the world. But listen, regarding the Western world, this has touched a lot of countries in the Western world. And not only that, it has touched the most powerful one. The one that was the most powerful, the United States of America. It's touched our country, my country, where I was born, where my family is from. It's touched our country, and in a deep way, it's manifested itself inside of government. I mean, that's how powerful this shit is. A lot of all the people you hear about in the Epstein files are in Trump's cabinet or appointed, to some shit. Alec Costa was appointed by Trump. He handled the Epstein files in Florida. They botched that, had 40 something witnesses, victims, give their remarks in depositions, and somehow the man walked pretty much with a year, right? And not even for any of the heinous things that we're talking about. Well, today we're going to talk about El Rancho. And it is heinous. I mean, they're already saying that it's been reported in emails that possibly people died there. Um, yeah, I believe that. Do you believe people died? I mean, as a matter of fact, let me put this up in a poll. Let me see. Do you believe people died at Rancho Zorro? Right. Yes. Oh, hold on. Let me see. Question mark. Absolutely. Hold on. How about we just keep it simple? Yes and no. And just to get a little taste of what the, audience thinks, people out there. It's going to take a minute for people to come into the stream because I showed up a little late today and it's not my normal time, even though it was scheduled for this time 2 hours earlier, but even that is not my normal time. So it's going to take a minute for people to get the notifications. Yeah. Let me see. Purple says, I believe a lot of the scandalous shit went down there. Yeah, I think so. Excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. I got a cold. I've had a cold the last couple of days, but, yeah, when you put these things together, you have now coming into the emails piece by piece, it's trickling through. So people's imaginations are percolating and, I could imagine people died last year. I could already imagine it given some of the, just knowing when you get these kind of rich folk together, billionaires, people that are embedded in the government and local government in any state, they tend, whether it's the mafia, whether it's the cartels, drug trafficking cartels, whether it's sex trafficking cartels. And listen, a lot of people don't know sex trafficking is the biggest trafficking. Drug trafficking is under sex trafficking. Human trafficking is a bigger industry than drug trafficking. That's how big this industry is. And when these type of people get their hooks in a state, they can do a lot. They can get away with a lot. And murder is one of the things that they tend to be able to get away with more so than your average criminal. You see what I mean? So they're very, very dangerous. And yeah, the emails show it. So you got things like coming out in the emails, Steve Bannon's hot tub, they're talking about acid. People using acid to clean the hot tubs. People ordering acid. Jeffrey Epstein. It comes out in the emails that he's ordering a lot of acid, and it can't necessarily all be explained by him using a pool. Sometimes they use it to clean pools, right? But not all of it. The amounts that he ordered changed. They weren't. They can't really be accounted for in that way. But having said that, if you think that people that are organized on this level are not very detailed and know how things get done, so that they know how to evade the radar. If you think they don't know how to evade the radar, they absolutely do. The only reason why you're seeing that they can't escape everything is because of the volume of the crimes, the mass of the entire event. That's why if they had just scaled it down a little bit, you would never even notice. They would get away with this shit forever. And because they control the wheels, they're controlling. And if any of you remember, Virginia Giuffre and some other victims in Palm Beach, they said that they were told some things by Maxwell and Epstein. They were told over and over many times that Epstein and Maxwell owned the police. They owned the DOJ. No, not the DOJ, the local DA's office, which is the same thing. One is national, one is local. So they own the DA, they own the police, and they own the FBI in Florida. That's what they were telling them. So these victims felt like they really had nowhere to turn. And that is what took them a long time to speak out. And then others say they were given death threats on top of that repeatedly. And bribes were made to people's family members or others that they told. There's a lot that goes on with this because of the volume and because of the scale and because of the people, the powerful people involved in it. So don't ever underestimate the fact that the only reason why you're hearing about all of this stuff is because of the scale, the mass of crimes that have been committed. If they had just committed half this amount, you probably it would have never even come up on the radar because they know what they're doing. Sex trafficking, human trafficking is a bigger crime network than drug trafficking. As a matter of fact, let me just look that up real quick just to get the exact numbers for people, because I know I'm reciting this, but I've already looked into it, but I want to give you the exact numbers. And so let me see. Is human trafficking a bigger industry than sex trafficking? And you know what? I'm also going to put the link up here real quick for people that want to hop up. You can use Discord to hop up to the show, and you will be inside the show once you have Discord on your telephone, right? You can download it in advance, or you can just click the link here in the chat, and that will go to the download yourself. But wait, let me see. Let me put that in the chat also, the Discord link. Let me see here. And I hope everybody's having a good day. Discord, hop up on the panel. Here we go. Yeah, and Kieran says, I've seen the torture videos. People definitely died there. Yeah, I want to see some more about that. As a matter of fact, do me a favor. You can go here also. If you want to send me a message, you can do it on Discord. You can send me a message on Discord also. You can hop up onto the panel if you're on Discord, or you can send me messages. But if you don't use Discord, you can't call me on Facebook, but you can send me messages on Facebook. So let me put that in here real quick for people, so they have some options. And send me some links if you got links about this. If you have references, send me the links in Facebook, and then I will be able to catch up with that. Let me see. V Media. Yeah, I'm on Facebook at V Media, y'all. So that's VMEEDIA. Facebook.com/VMEEDIA. So you can send me a message there at any time. It's all good. But yeah, I heard about these torture videos, and there's correspondence obviously with that. It was an Arab billionaire, I believe Arab, right? Billionaire in the Middle East. Let's say Middle East. And because sometimes it could be maybe misconstrued Asian or Arab, but having, or even European to some degree. Yeah, I've heard about this, and all I can say is that when these things do come out, people should take them serious. There's no reason at this point to not take them serious, and to not follow up, and to not tell the police to investigate, period. Like, what is up with the lack of investigating? Now we could say there's a lot of reasons why this wouldn't be investigated. There's even reports now that are coming out that say that Epstein had connects to not only Mossad, not only to Putin, because most people have talked about that, but also his links to the CIA somehow, some way. You see what I mean? So was he a double agent? Was he a triple agent? And it's worth understanding this. It's the American people and the people of the world that have been affected by this, right? They deserve to know, So my view on it is all governments need to be investigating this. All governments need to be forthright with their citizens, right? Because this has the potential to take down nations. As you can see, Trump is one of the people that is in the Epstein files most. What does that mean? How is that possible? The best friend of the most prolific sex trafficker and blackmailer in U.S. history pretty much is the president. If that's not concerning, I don't know what is concerning. But let me see. The data says, let me flip over here now and go to this data real quick about the sex trafficking. Let's see what it has to say. And then we're going to get into some videos and some information about El Rancho Zorro. So
It is a common point of confusion, but the short answer is that human trafficking is the parent category, and sex trafficking is one of its largest subsectors. Think of it like an umbrella. Human trafficking covers all forms of modern slavery, while sex trafficking is one specific type of that crime. The scope of the industry. When experts in global organizations like the International Labor Organization, ILO, measure these industries, they typically divide human trafficking into two main categories. Category. Description. Common examples. Labor trafficking. Forced work under threat of violence or through debt bondage. Agriculture, construction, domestic work, manufacturing. Sex trafficking. Commercial sex acts induced by force, fraud, or coercion. Prostitution, escort services, pornography. Which is bigger? It depends on how you define big by the number of victims or the profit generated. By number of victims, labor trafficking is significantly larger. Globally, there are far more people trapped in forced labor, factories, farms, and private homes than in the commercial sex industry. By profit, sex trafficking is often more efficient for criminals.
Okay, so you see that there? Sex trafficking is often more efficient for criminals, but also when you're thinking about blackmail, espionage, these kind of things, right. How exposed would you like to find a person? Yeah, well, if they're buying, if they're involved in sex trafficking and they're men, or if they're not men, but if they're officials, government officials, or anyone close to government, making decisions over your life, whether it's the Supreme Court, whether it's Congress, whether it's the Senate, whether it's the White House, whether it's a judge, a lower judge in the federal courts, whether it's an employee, just an average government official. These would be people you would like to catch. The mob would love to get them on tape buying sex, especially from a minor or anyone, because that can be used to blackmail them forever, ever. So it's very lucrative. But what I meant here, let me see, is human trafficking or sex trafficking more a bigger industry, right? A bigger industry than drug trafficking, because it didn't give me that. It didn't pull that information back. So let me just. I got the caps on there. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, it says drug trafficking. Why is that? I heard differently. I heard human trafficking was actually coming in more so. But in any case, let's see here what the numbers are.
Drug trafficking is widely considered to be the larger industry by total revenue, though human trafficking is growing at a faster rate and has a higher profit margin in certain sectors. The primary reason drug trafficking remains the largest is the nature of the product. A drug is consumed and must be replaced, creating constant demand, whereas a human trafficking victim can be exploited repeatedly over time. The global revenue breakdown. Based on 2025-2026 data from the UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and the ILO, International Labor Organization, here is how they compare. Industry. Estimated annual revenue. Primary growth driver. Drug trafficking $450, $650 billion. Massive global demand for synthetic drugs, fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine. Human trafficking $236, $498 billion. Increase in forced labor and the high profitability of the sex trade. Counterfeiting $1.2 trillion. Often cited as the largest illicit industry. Fake electronics, medicine, and fashion. Key differences in business models.
So actually counterfeiting is even bigger. And, a lot of people buy stuff and they don't realize that maybe they might be contributing to the counterfeit industry. If you're buying fake name brand stuff, be cautious, because what if you find out that those industries are also connected with other industries, black markets or illegal markets, right? For example, when we're buying even clothes that are not considered counterfeit clothing, name brand clothing, but just clothing in general, who's making it? How much do they get paid to make it? Is there slavery involved in making the clothes that people are buying online? Or, there's a lot that goes along with it. And but in
repeatability. In drug trafficking, the product is used UP. A dealer needs to sell more drugs to keep making money. In human trafficking, specifically sex trafficking, a single victim can be sold many times a day, making it an incredibly high minus margin business for criminals. Risk versus reward. Drug trafficking often carries much harsher legal penalties and higher risks of seizure by authorities. Traffickers sometimes move toward human trafficking because it can be harder to detect and, in many regions, carries lower jail sentences. The hidden economy. While sex trafficking generates about 73% of the total profit in the human trafficking sector, 173 billion, labor trafficking involves more victims but lower profit per person. Why the gap is
Okay, so there you have it. In general, this is how they rate. Right? Drug trafficking edges out human trafficking, but counterfeiting, which could be counterfeit medicine, counterfeit electronics, counterfeit fashion, these kind of things. Right. That is the biggest one. So these are some concerns right here. But it's interesting to know that Jeffrey Epstein was into sex trafficking, and that is the one that they argue can also be the largest in terms of return value and loss of profit. Right. And how many times you can use the person over and over again and how you can use them. I mean, obviously, Epstein was maximizing his potential. It wasn't just the act of sex he was interested in, although a lot of his Johns co-conspirators were interested in that too. But part of this was the interest of blackmail, which brought in more. Like, think about this. The victims were sometimes, not all the time, I don't know, I'm not keeping it in account, but as what I've read, some of the victims have received money, cash, that would throw them $200 or $300 here. That's what they said about Maxwell and in Florida, right? In those days, in the 90s, right? This is not the beginning, but in the 90s. And so that's part of it, that you get some money transfer there. But Epstein was blackmailing people. So he was in it for other reasons. So he was getting potentially $1 billion off of this person. You see what I mean? So it's hard to measure when you look at it that way. So now that we got that, one of the other things, though, that's interesting here is that they say that it's hard to prosecute sex traffickers. That's the thing about it. Let me see here. Hidden account authorities, traffickers sometimes move to. Okay, so let me see. Is it hard to prosecute sex traffickers rather than drug dealers? Let's see here. I'm just curious. They mentioned that, but I just want to make sure I cover it. Let me see. It says, yes, generally considered much harder to prosecute sex traffickers. Now, let's hear that before we get into some of these videos. We doing El Rancho Zorro today, so just for people that are tuning in, and I'm just starting up. Thanks for joining. If you're just joining, let's continue here. Let's see.
Yes, it is generally considered much harder to prosecute sex traffickers than drug dealers. While drug trafficking is a massive industry, the legal path to a conviction is often more straightforward than it is for sex trafficking. The difference lies primarily in the nature of the evidence and the role of the victim. 1. Physical versus psychological evidence. The biggest hurdle in sex trafficking cases is that the product is a human being, not an inanimate object. Drug trafficking, prosecution is often object-based. If police find a large quantity of drugs, scales, and cash, they have physical evidence that doesn't change its story. The law often allows for intent to distribute to be inferred simply by the weight of the drugs found. Sex trafficking, prosecution is relationship-based. To win a case, a prosecutor usually has to prove force, fraud, or coercion. This is psychological and invisible. A trafficker may use debt bondage or threats against a victim's family, things that don't leave physical bruises.
And this is what really pisses me off when you get people that come with this stuff like, how come they didn't say anything about it? Why did they wait so long? Or other aspects of this, like they don't understand that what coercion is, that the mental aspect of sex trafficking that is there, right? They don't acknowledge it, a lot of people, and they basically end up, just allowing it and playing a role in allowing it and continuing it to exist, that's
and
crazy.
Are incredibly difficult to prove in court without a witness. 2. The burden on the witness.
You notice that? And without a witness. So this is more likely to not have a witness. And this is another thing that people who further sex trafficking always seem to come up with, like this idea. They remove the idea that by saying, where's the proof? Can you prove it? Can you prove it? Where's the proof? Can you prove it? Okay, well, if you look at how sex trafficking is done, you would see how ridiculous that question is. Can you prove it? It is a hallmark of sex trafficking that it is harder to prove because what it is comprised of: force, fraud, and coercion. And there's usually not witnesses, more than one or two witnesses, So when you're dealing with the coercion, this is the family aspect of it. This is other aspects of it. Like, I have the tape, I'll release the tape, threats, things like this, threats to your lives, things that you can't see necessarily, that everyone doesn't know because it's between them and the sex trafficker. So if you don't have a recording, it's hard to prove it. But here's the irony of it. We have a DOJ right now in the United States of America that doesn't want to prove nothing, because if they wanted to prove anything true or false, they would release the files, but let's continue.
In drug cases, the witness is often a police officer or an undercover agent. In sex trafficking cases, the case often lives or dies based on the victim's testimony. Trauma and memory. Severe trauma affects how the brain stores memories. Victims may give inconsistent accounts or shut down on the stand, which defense attorneys use to claim they are unreliable. Fear of retaliation. Unlike a drug deal where the product is gone, a trafficker often maintains a psychological hold over a victim. Victims may recant their stories out of fear for their lives or the lives of their families. Criminalization of the victim. Many victims have been forced to commit crimes, like theft or drug use, by their traffickers. This makes them afraid to come forward and makes them look less sympathetic to a jury. 3. Victimless prosecution. In recent years, the legal system has tried to shift toward victim-centered or victimless prosecutions to bridge this gap. Strategy. How it works. Digital evidence. Using text messages, hotel logs, and online ads to prove a trafficker's control without needing the victim to testify. Financial trails. Treating trafficking like a white-collar crime by following money laundering and pimping proceeds. Expert witnesses. Bringing in psychologists to explain to a jury why a victim might have stayed with their trafficker or why their testimony seems inconsistent.
Now, when you think about this, you got to ask yourself, why is the DOJ not using this methodology? Right? It's interesting.
Trauma-informed care. Summary table.
It's their own prescription. It's the DOJ's own prescription. It's the FBI's own prescription. It's the American people's, the Congress, the Senate's own prescription. It's the president's own prescription. It's the Supreme Court's own prescription. Yet it's not being used here when prosecuting people in the Epstein files. People are walking around saying, "You can't prove it. Can you prove it? Where's the proof?"
Sex trafficking is harder to prosecute. Feature. Drug trafficking. Sex trafficking. Primary evidence. Physical, drugs, cash, scales, testimony, force, fraud, coercion, cooperation.
All right.
Police, agents.
So there we have it. So sorry about that. So, nonetheless, that's what it is. Now we have some kind of background on it and, a safe place to start. Now, here is what some of the legacy media has been saying just in the last day or two about this event, about the El Zorro Rancho place. Now, apparently, it's changed addresses. They've had the place, the address change several times. I think 2 to 3 times it's changed. Why that is, people are suggesting it's to hide interest in it, right? It's also been owned by a person that's, I think, very much involved in Texas government right now, or politics right now. That's another interesting aspect of it. So we're going to go over that. And then there's the aspect of, could people have been buried on that property, and the emails that suggest that could have been happening.
Cover what took place at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. Lawmakers have created a truth commission, and they held their first meeting today. News 13's Jessica Badon is live at the Roundhouse and explains what the commission will be investigating.
Yesterday, lawmakers passed a resolution to create a bipartisan subcommittee to investigate allegations of sexual abuse and criminal activity related to Epstein's Zorro Ranch property. Today, lawmakers say they will look into possible failures by authorities and provide full transparency to the public.
New Mexico is acting where the federal government is failing to do so.
After the Department of Justice released the Jeffrey Epstein files, New Mexico lawmakers say they're ready to get to the truth of what went on at Jeffrey Epstein's New Mexico property. This comes after years of allegations, including sexual assault, trafficking, and criminal activity at Zorro
bring it
Ranch.
back. Wait a second. Let me just bring it back before they're going to say something about Richards. Governor Richards, I think, was there. Let me see this one more time, just the layout.
After the Department of Justice released the Jeffrey Epstein files, New Mexico lawmakers say they're ready to get to the truth of what went on at Jeffrey Epstein's New Mexico property. This comes after.
So right there, you see. So this gives you an idea of the layout, the surrounding situation, who's around you. Obviously, it's very secluded, right? This is a very secluded location. So if you're going into this, I looked at the map, the layout of the roads, but the roads don't give you the terrain. The roads don't tell you, the entire story, but it tells you part. Now, obviously, you could see to the right, to the top to the right, you can see the road comes in. I think it's that way. There's a road over there, right? Somehow over there's a road, and there's probably a road going right from the left to the right closer that kind of turns up there somewhere, right? But outside of that, there's one road in and one road out. Basically, that's what this is. So when you're going there, there's one road in and one road out. Just remember that. It's very, very secluded. Will you run? How far will you run on foot? What else is there? And from what's been said, Jeffrey Epstein also rented the properties next to the ranch also. So in other words, it looks and it sounds like this is his own goddamn town. You see what I mean? Once you step into this town, quote unquote, you're his. Your life is in his hands when you step into this town. If you follow that description, one road in, one road out. The same road in is the same road out to El Rancho, right? And look at the terrain, right? You're very secluded. And Jeffrey Epstein didn't just own the property, right, or quote unquote, but he leased the properties next to it. So this is basically his town. Let's go on.
After years of allegations, including sexual assault, trafficking, and criminal activity at Zorro.
Yeah, when you look at it up close, it doesn't look like that, right? But when you zoom out, you get an easier picture of it.
Ranch that include prominent names like former Governor Bill Richardson. On Monday, lawmakers fast-tracked a resolution to create a truth commission to investigate the case.
So you see, this is 2 days now since Monday, right? It's Wednesday, February 18th, and this was Monday, February 16th when they fast-tracked this, right? So that's good news.
This Truth Commission will finally fill in the gaps of what we need to know as a public by investigating the failures that led to the horrific allegations of abuse and crime at Zorro Ranch, so we can learn from them and prevent these atrocities from taking place ever again in our state.
The commission will create a report with victim testimony and statements, review state laws to make sure there are no loopholes for sex offenders, and will examine the statute of limitations for childhood sexual assault to make sure they are not too short for victims.
With what is already publicly available in the files, there are allegations that folks were as young as small children, toddler-age children that were at the ranch who were abused, all the way to teenage girls.
The commission.
What? Toddlers at the ranch? So they just inside of New Mexico, the authorities there have these reports. The FBI has these reports, right? Man, I mean, Lord knows what they were doing with toddlers or little, just all of it is horrible to think about. But in any case, let me let more of it play.
And says they plan to also visit Zorro Ranch and are prepared to use subpoena powers to investigate perpetrators, saying they're prepared to hold the state accountable if necessary.
There are already persons of interest that we will be looking into to issue subpoenas to if they will not cooperate and be part of our investigatory commission. So we are prepared to issue subpoenas to those folks to get them on the record.
Throughout the commission's investigations, they will post reports on a public website along with a tip line for people to report information. The commission says they plan to have their first report completed by July 31st. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Jessica. In 2019, Governor Richardson denied allegations he was involved in Epstein's sex trafficking ring. He died in 2023.
That's interesting that he died.
On Monday.
Let me see here. Let me just pause that. That's interesting. Governor Richards died, and there's a lot of people that say that how come Democrats aren't interested in the Epstein files? Well, I'm a Democrat. I've been covering this story every day since it's come out. I mean, since it's come out in the public, that is, right? Now there's other people that have been, how can I say this, following a sex trafficking story that has a slightly different narrative. And that story I haven't been following, and I suppose that's the other narrative, right? That is the liberal Democrats are all behind this narrative, right? Which I didn't really understand. It didn't make sense to me because I never see billionaires and rich people as being Democrat or Republican. I see them as being very different. Right. And but a lot of people didn't pick up on that, So, yeah, I see more class warfare being a threat here than a Democrat Republican war issue going on. But if you want to make it Democrat or Republican, hey, Bill Richards was a Democrat. He died. I think they should prosecute him and look into his activities just as much as they should look into anyone, even if a person was not a Republican or Democrat. If they're in the Epstein files, they need to be looked into seriously. And anyone, regardless of your political affiliation or not, or no political affiliation, if you're in these files, in my view, in any credible way, in any meaningful way, right? Meaning that you knew something about it and you stayed around and did nothing, or that you did some of these things yourself, or that you knew Epstein had done some of these things and you continue to work with him, you shouldn't have anything to do with government at all. And you should be barred from other financial institutions doing business in financial institutions that enable this kind of trafficking, banks and things like this. You should be barred from it, government, barred from it, state, local, federal, all of it. You see what I mean? But having said that, now that we're looking at this, let me just go over here. Now take a look at this. This is, you can see up here, Zorro Ranch, right? That's near Santa Fe, right? We got it outlined here, Zorro Ranch, for people that can see. Now let me just zoom out so we can see how close this is to Mexico. You see, this is Zorro Ranch up here. I take it, right? That must be Zorro Ranch, right there. That little second little red spot in the middle of the screen. And if you go down here, here's the border. Oh, wait a second. No. They got two different ones. Rancho del Zorro. Whoa. Wait a second. Well, one is on the border, directly on the, but either way, this is close. Here and here is only a 2-hour drive. You know what I mean? Yeah, I estimate. But let me just get the address here of the ranch, and then I can put that into here to make sure I'm getting the exact. What is the state address in New Mexico? Let me make sure I'm getting the right address here. Sorry about that. I just what does it say? Damn. Hold on. Why does it say that? Zorro Rancho. Address, and then we just cut it here. I think it's this one, Stanley, right? Right. Let me go to Reddit real quick and see what it says here. By the way, anybody can hop up if you're a sensible person. Feel the link is in the chat. Let me see here. Okay, I think it's the one that says Stanley. Let me just revert back to this. Sorry. Was the Epstein Zorro Ranch close to the border? Let me just get the exact location here. I want to just make sure, because this all comes into understanding what's actually going on. You know, okay, 300 miles north. So I got it. It's in Stanley, right? So I had the right one. It's up here, right? It's this one. So this is like two hours away, right? A 2-hour drive to the border, you could say, something like that, right? Maybe 2.5. Obviously, there's a main road you could drive down if you wanted to do that. Let's see here. Zorro, just so you see more now. See, here's the border down here. Let me see. Can y'all see that? Yeah, you can see Zorro Ranch at the top of the screen, and at the bottom. Oh, you can't even see that. So let me zoom out. Yeah, and at the bottom, this is the border here. So you see, that's it. So it's in 1/3, a little more. It's almost 1/2 of the way. It's in the middle of New Mexico. You could say that, a little less than the middle. So yeah, so it doesn't take 4 hours to drive all the way across New Mexico. So that would be like a 2-hour drive, I think, something like that. Right. So now let's just go back to the other one now and let's let it play.
A full investigation into what happened at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch. The ranch, located about 30 miles south of Santa Fe, is where the late U.S. sex offender is accused of trafficking and sexually assaulting girls and women. The so-called Truth Commission seeks to identify ranch guests.
Yo, David, what's up, bro?
Who may have known
what's up, David? Yo, how you doing, man?
What was going on at the 7,600-acre property or taken part in alleged sexual abuse. It seeks testimony from survivors, and legislators are also urging local residents to testify. The Justice Department released millions of Epstein-related files that shed new light on activities at the ranch. The files reveal ties between Epstein and 2 former Democratic governors and an Attorney General of New Mexico. Several civil suits accuse Epstein of sexually...
An Attorney General of New Mexico. So, doesn't this ring a bell? Attorney General of New Mexico. Who was the Attorney General of Florida in the Florida dynamic? That was Acosta, right? He got a job by Trump, right? So let's continue.
The assaulting girls and legislators are also urging local residents to testify. The Justice Department released millions of Epstein-related files that shed new light on activities at the ranch. The files reveal ties between Epstein and 2 former Democratic governors and an Attorney General of New Mexico. Several civil suits accuse Epstein of sexually assaulting girls at Zorro Ranch, locally known as the Playboy Ranch. He was never charged for the alleged offenses. Sigrid McCauley, whose law firm has represented hundreds of Epstein survivors, applauded the move, saying Zorro Ranch had been overlooked by federal investigations.
Many of the survivors had experiences in New Mexico, and as we've learned, there were local politicians and other people that were aware of what was happening in New Mexico.
So this gives credence to this statement, when people say, how come they didn't speak up? How come they, all of these kind of dynamics, they were told again. So just like in Florida, the victims in Florida were told, we own the police, we own the DA, we own the FBI. It's likely they were told the same thing here in this state of New Mexico. So that gives some perspective on it. Let's see here.
Mexico. So it's really important that at this point in time, a closer look is taken with respect to that property.
The U.S. Department of Justice passed a request for comment to the FBI. The FBI declined to comment.
Why hasn't an investigation been done into New Mexico at the depth and breadth of the other properties? That's a little unclear to me. I think that the focus in New Mexico, maybe because the activity wasn't as regular out there, that's why law enforcement in New York, where he spent a lot of time, may have focused, but it's certainly necessary. I mean, many of the survivors had experiences in New Mexico.
Let me just hear that again, what she said, the words, the particular words.
So maybe because the activity wasn't as regular out there, that's why law enforcement in New York, where he spent a lot of time, may have focused, but it certainly
sounds like a cover up to me, basically. Like, nah, just because the activity is, come on, are they going to do this with anything else? With any other serious crime? Is that what they're going to do? Well, the activity is mostly centered around this location, so let's just only put our investigation around that. No, not this type of dynamic. Come on. The dude is already, he's on charges for sex trafficking, and it spans from Florida to New York. What else do you need to know that to say we need to go in and seize shit from New Mexico also? What? I'm sorry, but this smells, I mean, to me, it's my opinion, and you're going to hear it since you're here. This reeks of cover up, you know, and to me, it doesn't matter who's doing the covering up. It just reeks of cover up, you know.
Necessary. I mean, many of the survivors had experiences in New Mexico, and as we've learned, you know, there were local politicians and other people that were aware of what was happening in New Mexico.
Sherry,
so it's
what's
really
up, Sherry?
important that at this point in time, a closer look is taken
Eric,
with respect to that.
What's up, Eric?
This is these are all Epstein survivors: Teresa Helm, Annie Farmer, myself, and Virginia Giuffre.
Whoa. So were they all here too in New Mexico?
At this point in time, a closer look is taken with respect to that property.
This is these are all Epstein survivors: Teresa Helm, Annie Farmer, myself, and Virginia Giuffre.
Okay, it doesn't say if they were in New Mexico. Okay, I got it.
The allegations of abuse that have been made public relate to that type of conduct that Epstein regularly required her and frankly others to participate in, which often was a massage that would then lead to sexual abuse. And that was pretty consistent in his pattern, in Jeffrey Epstein's pattern of how he interacted with people and how he required the girls to interact with other individuals that he lent them out to.
Yeah, you know, it's so hard. I mean, I will tell you that there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss her tremendously. But she, you know, is always still inspiring me. Her spirit is all around.
She was always trying. I mean, her whole mission was to bring light to what happened and to expose what happened. And, you know, she was assaulted many times, unfortunately, in New Mexico. And, you know, she's aware of others who were.
Okay, so Virginia Giuffre, her story does go over to Mexico. Okay, I see.
As well. And so I think for her, seeing New Mexico pay attention to this would be, you know, very important.
The fact of the matter was that he was basically doing anything he wanted in this state without any accountability whatsoever.
Yeah, and so again, that's that. We own the FBI, we own the DA, we own the police, local police, and that's what they reminded the victims of, you know, the entire time, not just in Florida, but obviously here too. I don't know how many of you used to see last year. I used to run this clip a lot. when I'm on my mobile phone, I have other clips because I have to run the show differently from the mobile. But last year I used to do it from the mobile a lot, the same show here, and and I used to run this clip all the time that says it. You know, we own the police, we own the FBI, we own the local DA. You know, this kind of thing to remind people that this is what was behind it. But listen, when you think about that, and you think about accountability and you think about behavior, how a government responds, how the police respond, how the FBI respond, how the DOJ responds in this example, the United States own DOJ, right? The AG, Attorney General of the country, right? When you think about how they respond, does it make sense? Does it make sense? Does Epstein and his co-conspirators, do they own? Because they said we. Does it make sense how in terms of how they respond? Does the government respond like it's owned by Epstein and his co-conspirators? You know, I would just say, you tell me. To me, it sounds like, yeah, pretty much makes sense, because they don't seem to be worried about the American people at all, or the victims. Sherry, I see you, Sherry. Karina, what's up? Thank you, Karina. Dylan, I see you, bro. What's up? Let me see here. Yeah. Yo, Eric, you gonna hop up? What's the deal, man? I saw your message on Facebook. For those of you that don't know, let me put the link back in the chat. If you got Discord on your phone, you actually can hop up today. And be in part of the show yourself. And it's kind of good to get people to hop up. Sometimes you get to hear them, and I really like to get the trolls to hop up. They run, typically the trolls be running, y'all. They like to stay in the chat. That's like their little area they're allowed to be in. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Know what I mean? They like to just stay there only. You know what I'm saying? And you go to their page and they don't have nothing up, and just nothing, not one thing. You know what I'm saying? You can't even tell who they are, and they have real strong opinions about the law, by the way, and people, but they ain't showing shit. You know what I'm saying? They don't stand on shit. Me, I stand on everything I'm saying. That's why you can see me. That's why I'm a real person. I don't just show myself to be a goddamn computer. You know what I'm saying? I am not a computer with an opinion. Okay? I'm actually a real person. I am not Grok operating a show. Okay, anyway. I really do live in Copenhagen. I was really born in Washington, D.C. Anyway, so. Yeah, so when you over here, you dealing with a real person that's not up here hiding their goddamn face. I'm sorry. Some people might feel like they need to hide their face, and I'm glad when they talk, you can hear their voice at least. You know what I'm saying? But kudos to the podcasters that show who they are and shit. You know what I'm saying? While having opinions. You know what I'm saying? Kudos to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you ever see me in your podcast up in your chat, go to my page and check out who I am, and then you will be able to say, oh, okay, this dude at least stands on his own opinion. So there you go. As an individual, I think I'm doing all right. But let's continue now that we had a little laugh, because this shit is too serious. You have to have part of your day be positive anyway. So I hope y'all getting that from me. I'm not trying to, none of us need to become depressed by watching this, but it is the reality we live in right now. We can turn this conversation into one that's useful, or we can do it in a way to where we don't get anything out of it, and don't get any inspiration to make things better tomorrow. That's another way to do it. You know, I try to do it to where we got inspiration to do something about it tomorrow in a way that unifies people. You see what I mean? So that's what I try to do anyway. But
and the
let's
ranch
continue.
that exists out near Stanley, New Mexico, is basically on a 2-lane highway in the middle of nowhere.
You see what I'm saying? That's exactly what I was saying. That location, I said this earlier in here, there's one road in and there's one road out. And if you really get a look at that location, right? When you look at it up close, it looks like, oh, okay, this might just be a regular town with, no, this dude owns this place, dude. He basically owns this whole area. He's even renting properties across from the ranch. You see what I mean? Now, this is the highway. So you see that? Okay, y'all couldn't see that. So here it is now. Here's the ranch, right? This is the highway. You see? And when you zoom in, right, and you see where it is, this is like a little cliff. This is on a little cliff, you see? So you don't really get to appreciate the ground right here for what it is. There is no place to run. You're not going to run. You see how far it is off of the highway? It's not that far, but you're not going to run, because what I heard is that he was leasing the properties across the street too. He didn't just own this, he was leasing other areas. So, so in other words, this is basically his town. You know, this is Stanley, but once you start getting over to here, all of this shit in the vicinity is, this is Epstein from here, from 16A, right? And even across 41, right? So they say now there's visual dreams there now, but I'm talking about stuff that just happened to lay across in this area. Yeah, all of this shit is Epstein. So you're not going too far. And most of the people in the town work in some way, have some relationship to him, would want to have a job, would want to do business with him. So a lot of them are going to look the other way to get a check. When you have a billionaire with this high profile people he's doing business with, everybody else in this town becomes subservient pretty much. And that's how it really worked, So, but in any case, let's continue.
It was him with an airstrip and a sprawling place that he brought folks to that we know very little, if nothing about, and certainly not a lot that the news has reported on. And what has been reported on is nothing short of alarming.
You see right there? So this gives you an idea of the geography. I mean, I had a better picture up here earlier where it zooms out even further, and you can see you're not going anywhere. You're not just running off of his property screaming and expecting someone to hear you and come to your aid. People are not that close to you. You see what I mean? Like, yeah, it just ain't happening. And then if someone heard something, it's very likely they would turn the other cheek, because you're in a small town where people do business. This guy's a billionaire. His presence means he owns this town. He has more power than anybody else in the town has. More power than everyone else is either a government employee or some small town business person. You see what I mean? Or a resident. I forgot who owns it now, but it was sold in 2023. Yeah, J Stick. Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to look into this. I'm just opening up. It's the first hour, right? So we just kind of getting into it slowly. It's not my normal time slot, but I'm going to stick in there for a minute now. I'm going to stay. So I'm going to be here and slowly kind of go through this Rancho Zorro situation, try to do it in a comprehensive way. But listen, anybody that wants to hop up, you can hop up using distro. If you got something you want to communicate, if that's easier for you, you can hop up and then talk to the audience and explain, also, put out whatever questions you might have to me if you got any, and vice versa. So just hop up. It's on Discord. If you want to send me a message, you can send me a message right here on facebook.com/VMEEDIA. That's V Media with 2 E's. And then I will get your message there. And so let's continue to hear the rest of this. Let's go on.
Well, one of the sort of accounts that sticks with me already is that he was a known sort of gallivanter, ladies' man around town. They called his ranch the Playboy Ranch of Santa Fe.
Yeah, I think, Jay, I think it's a difference. It's because how people are describing it. When they might be describing what it is today. I think some things have changed. But there's also the thing about he leased other properties around Zorro Rancho. You see what I mean? So it depends on how you look at it. Like, that's what I was pointing out here with the map, and was trying to say, this guy, his ranch was here. This is a big ass area right here in itself. You see, let's zoom out. This is all him. You ain't running anywhere. If you run, you're not running anywhere. This is all him over here. You see what I'm saying? Here's the airport, right? Here's the local airport and shit. But he got his own little airport somewhere around there. But look, you're not running anywhere. There's things that operated on his property, but but it's his property. And then at the same time, across the street, he leased properties too, or on the other side. So I think that may be what they're describing, yeah. But in any case, it's still fishy, and it's still something people need to follow up on. The detail is everything in this. Why does this say? Why does the name change? Look, today it's called. It's called something else today, but this is the Zorro Ranch. This is it. And like you said, it's like a mile or two off the main road. This is not a little walk, This ain't a little. I mean, it looks like it on camera, but when you zoom in, you can see it's going to take you, it's going to take you a little bit of time. I don't know. But this is it right here. This is it. Where's the main? Hold on. Let me go back out 2 seconds. I'm sorry about this. Let me just do this over because I don't want to make any mistakes here. Search this area. Ranch Zorro. Right. Let's do that again. Right. If I zoom out, you see that? Boom. Let's go here. There's a lot of ranchos out here. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, I'm sorry. Damn, was this the wrong one? Hold on, let me go here. Is it this one? Is this it right here? Is it this one? Okay, I think it's this one. I'm sorry about that. Damn, how did I get confused about that? Yeah, it's this one. It appears that it's this one, actually. Zorro Rancho. So, I'm sorry about that, y'all. And thanks for pointing that out to me. In any case, this is it. So, either way, he owned other properties. I mean, he leased other properties that weren't on his main property. So, this is... It appears it's more like this. And as you can see, this is the one lane. This is the one road. So you're not going anywhere you're not going anywhere. You're not running. There's no escape. Yeah, this looks about it right here. Because when I saw the other picture, they had some mountains, like a cliff off of the property. So this looks more like it. This is not easy terrain to move around in, and it's less easier if you're just by yourself. But yeah, let me pull out. Where's that damn property at again? Here, you see that? The property's right there. So this is how far you are from the road. 2.5 miles, you say? Let me go back. Yeah, 70 exactly. He was leasing like $700 a month. Exactly. Wait, that's not what it looks like when I looked it up. Oh yeah, it's looking different. I feel you. Well, I mean, shit, we here. This is a detail, but either way, if it's this property or it's the other one, they've changed the address 3 times, right? So, but in any case, it is in Stanley, right? Is this it? I mean, nah. This right here says Zorro Rancho. That's what this says. And let me go back here again one more time. Let me just let me see. Can you give me the... Okay, well, it says Jeffrey Epstein's ranch was not close to the international border. It's located in central New Mexico, roughly 300 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. There's been plenty of online speculation regarding the ranch's location and its potential ties to international trafficking routes. Well, it definitely does have that. In the geographical reality, that the property is quite far into the interior. Yeah, but that to me, it's in the border state. That's good enough, if you ask me. Okay. The exact location, right? It says the ranch is near Stanley, New Mexico in Santa Fe County. Proximity to major cities. It is about 300 to 35 miles southeast of Santa Fe and roughly 50 miles east of Albuquerque. Distance to the border is 5 to 6 hour drive. Okay, damn, it takes more time to drive across. Okay, maybe it's because I'll be speeding and shit. When I drive, I always drive pretty much the maximum if there's no traffic. Yeah, on a long drive like this, you want to get somewhere, right? But why does the location matter? Instead of proximity to the land, the ranch strategic value Epstein was its private infrastructure, private airstrip, extreme seclusion. Okay, extreme seclusion spanning nearly 10,000 acres. The property provided a level of isolation that made it difficult for outsiders or law enforcement to monitor. Political connections. The ranch was purchased from the family of a former New Mexico governor, and its location allowed Epstein to host high-profile guests far away from the media centers of New York and Florida. Would you like more information? Give me the GPS data so I can look it up on Google Maps. Yeah, I just want to make sure I got the right place. It appears this is the right place though now. Wait, I think for some reason it says the main entrance is here. Look at this. It says the other place is part of it. So the ranch covers approximately 10,000 acres of high desert terrain. Visibility from the main NM 41, very little of the actual residence is visible due to the vast size of the lot and the long private driveway. So he was leasing out a lot of this. While I cannot provide the GPS coordinate file, the main entrance to the property formerly known as Zorro Ranch is located at 3741 Stanley. So let me see if this address even exists anymore. Let me see here. Maybe it's not this. It says, look, this says Zorro Ranch, but when you zoom out, you see now when you come here, here's Comtech, and the last time I looked it up, it had pointed this out as the place. Right? Let me zoom in. Maybe it's not matching up though, because we do got some photographs that we can match up to this. They're saying that this doesn't look like the place. I'm just saying, this don't look nothing like the place. So they're saying this is the main entrance. That doesn't look like the place to me. Yeah, that doesn't look like the place to me. It looks like it's this other one. Where the hell is that at now? Let's do this again. Right. See, this comes up and Zorro Ranch is up here and they say 41. So, is this 10,000 square meters or square miles? Is it this whole area? Hold on. Let me make sure y'all can see this. Right. You see that? Zorro Ranch is at the top. And are they trying to say all of this is Zorro Ranch? Like all of Stanley is basically Zorro Ranch? Is that what they're saying? Because they're saying this is the main entrance. But if you look here and we zoom in, this is what, to me, I don't know. This look closer to what the picture described. Is it this? Right here. This little property right here. You see that? Right here. This looks more like it to me. What I saw. Right. You see? So, yeah, somebody doing something, some kind of funny business with this. Yeah. That's what this looks like to me. And here's that little road. You see that road goes up to this road. You can see from this house, there's a little tiny road right there that goes from this will be the helicopter place. There's a little tiny road that extends from there to the right over to this. Now, when you zoom out and when you go online, they say that the main entrance is all the way. This is the same road now, is all the way down here, Comtech Communications. Yeah. In any case, what do you all think? You can tell me. Let me know. Which one is it? Is it? Are they both true, or is the main? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell? I mean, something just doesn't seem right. But it seems more plausible that this is the location, the one that says Zorro Ranch. The one that says Zorro Ranch appears to be the actual location. And the one that says Stanley something doesn't appear to be the actual location. If you ask me, look, this is it. You see what I'm saying? This is the photographs. So I don't know why they say the entrance is at that Stanley thing. I just don't get that. That's confusing though. That's enough to confuse people. And it definitely confused me. So let me see here. Zorro Ranch. Let me go back to Zorro Ranch. Zorro Ranch. Google Map. All right. Hopefully that comes up. Zorro Ranch, Google Maps. Is it here? Did it come up? Oh, let me just, I don't know why it's doing that. So people get an idea that, I mean, in my mind, either location, you ain't going nowhere fast. It's probably not designed to know. What was Zorro Ranch, New Mexico? Why is it all of a sudden coming up slower? Right. So you see this, right? They have these two locations. Zorro Ranch Road seems like the one it probably is. Comtech Communications is probably not the one, right? And oops. Now when I zoom out, when I go out of this one, you can see Zorro Ranch here again. Right? It's on the same road, 41. But when we look at this, it suggests that this is the main entrance. While I cannot provide, you see that? The main entrance of the property formerly known as Zorro Ranch is located at this. This is, look, is a business currently associated with that specific address. They changed the address, y'all. They changed the address. So, yeah, so it is the other place that says Zorro Ranch. This is not the entrance. This is only coming up because they changed the number of the address. It looks like, to maybe throw. I don't know why they did that. That's something you would do on the state level, right? Somebody in the state has to be involved in doing something like that. But yeah, it's this one. It's this one right here, Zorro Ranch, right? And as you can see, you ain't going nowhere once you get on this ranch. Like, this is Route 41. Right? Yep, that's the route that it says. Let me go back to here. Route 41. Yeah, it says 41. See Stanley, 41 there, right? But they changed this address. 3762 is not the address name anymore. And right, so that was interesting. Yeah, this is 41 again. God damn. This is 41. You coming all the way from that one. Oh. You coming a long way, yo. These are the mountains. You see that? So this is the cliff, and that picture that we saw, it definitely shows that cliff right here. Right. These little, you see that mountain. So it's up on a mountain area. Right. It's up. It's standing up. You see that? So this is a raised area where this place is located is raised. So you're coming in here, but you also going up a little bit. And when you come down to this ridge, you're going down there. So if you're running away, you would have to run down a mountain or a ridge. Same thing to the north. You would have to run down. You run east. Yeah, well, they might look a little different, but yeah, it seems like a place you ain't going to really, no one's going to hear you if you scream. No one's going to see much. it seems very secluded, and that's the point I wanted to get at. But let's continue here. Let me see here. What Eric say? One road. Yeah, it's one road. It's one entrance and one out, bro. That's it. The same one in is the same one out. So you're not going anywhere, basically. That you might run. I mean, there's basically no way to escape. There's no way to escape. I'll put it that way. So let's continue. There's that ridge. You see that? So this is the ridge I was talking about, right? So.
And so to think that this was happening for decades, that this predator was preying upon women, people in our community, is not only terrifying, it's just abhorrent that we couldn't turn every stone over at the time that he could be held accountable. And so for any sense of justice to be had, we have to tell the truth. We have to tell the story of what happened here.
Yeah. It seems like there is definitely, it's not even seeming, it looks like, but I have to say that it seems to me like it's a cover up. Now, this is part of a breakdown from the channel Law and Crime that he did on some specifics. It's a lawyer that operates this channel, right? And Jesse, what's his whole name? What's Jesse's whole name? I think his name is Jesse. What's his name? I forget. In any case, we'll get to it. But he's a lawyer, and he's going over some of the details and information that came up regarding Epstein, and these emails, that are mentioning the Zorro Ranch and bodies possibly being buried there. There it is. It's Jesse Weber. I'm sorry about that. And the program is called Sidebar here. Let me see here. Let me pull it up.
The existing files that were released from the Department of Justice. And something came out that we got to talk about. Buried in the millions and millions of pages, there is an email that has now stood out for a very dark reason. There is an email from November 2019. It's directed to an Edward Aragon. According to KOB4, he's a local radio host. The other names are redacted in this email, but this is what it says. Quote, Edward, this is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at the Zorro. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G?
Whoa. All right. So let me just go in and just make this a little bigger. I know you all can see it. It looks large, but let me just go in. I want to verify it myself by reading it. 2 seconds. It says it's from Edward. Okay. This is sensitive, so it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or trash it, but it comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff of the Zorro Ranch. The material below was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside of Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey Epstein and Madam G? Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. That is what that says. And yeah, I don't know if y'all can see that right there. Yeah, you can see part of it. Yeah, that's what that says. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than this. And, to just know that the fact that the government is not doing much almost gives credence to it being real. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex. And there even appear to be links to purported sex videos, including one that says sex video with minor.
Woo! What? So, damn. Oh my goodness. I didn't even know this. I actually
say, please arrange for 1 Bitcoin BTC by 6.
Sorry about that. Let me just bring it back. It said links. I actually only heard part of this. These are it is. Damn. So somebody has seen this. Someone has seen this. And right. You know, that's what makes it even more damning, because how do you say as the FBI that you haven't seen it, but someone else has seen it? That almost makes other people better at investigating than you. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, seriously, link 1, link 2, link 3, link 4, 5, 6, 7 different videos, 13 minutes for 27 minutes, 12 minutes, 19 minutes, 7 minutes, 23 minutes, 15 minutes, and audio.
And then it goes on to say, please arrange for 1 Bitcoin BTC by 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, Thursday, 11/22/19, to the BTC wallet address that's redacted. The USB will be sent anonymously to your attention by overnight courier upon receipt of the funds. You have my assurance this is exclusive, never shared before, no attorneys, no samples, no questions, please confirm ASAP. So Zorro, by the way, is referring to Zorro Ranch. It's about 30 miles south of Santa Fe, New Mexico. We've talked about this Epstein property before. We had found evidence that upon Epstein's death, he wanted this property, along with all of his major properties, to go to Karina Shuliak, his purported secret girlfriend. This is in trust documents and will documents. Now, Epstein, based on the reporting here, apparently purchased the 7,500-acre property from former New Mexico Governor Bruce King in 1993. And there were several civil lawsuits that accused Epstein of sexually assaulting girls at this property. It was dubbed the Playboy Ranch, where Epstein, in fact, was accused of sexually.
You know, speaking of that, in Bitcoin, you know, there's people speculating now that Epstein, or no, the people behind Epstein are the people behind Bitcoin. Like, seriously, that's what folks are speculating now. To be honest with you, like, no, I'm not bullshitting.
Abusing a 16-year-old girl as early as 1996. And for example, you have this unsealed 2016 court deposition where the Epstein accuser, renowned Epstein accuser, Virginia Giuffre, testified that Ghislaine Maxwell ordered her to give the late former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson a massage at the ranch. Now, this radio host, Aragon, said that he got this message anonymously. He sent the email to the FBI, which is why, by the way, it was in the Epstein files to begin with, why it was released from the DOJ. And he indicated that he didn't pay this person, which, when you think about 1 Bitcoin back in the day, was reportedly worth about $8,000 at the time. And he indicated that while he spoke to an FBI agent, he never heard anything more from it, didn't know the status of the investigation. Now, let me be clear about something, okay? We couldn't find more corroborating evidence to support this claim that, you know, there are dead bodies somewhere in the area of this ranch or on the ranch. We don't know if these allegations are true. But if they are true, when would this have happened? We don't know that either. But apparently, I will tell you, this ranch, this claim, is being taken seriously. And in a little bit, I'm going to be bringing on a professional coroner to determine what can we expect here? What potential evidence could be left behind? How can you even find a body? What will be left to actually examine? How much can we tell here? But the reason that we're even bringing a coroner on and talking about this is because this claim is getting serious attention. You have New Mexico's Land Commissioner, Stephanie Garcia Richard, who sent a letter to the New Mexico Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office requesting a full investigation. According to KOB4, Epstein had apparently leased land around this ranch from the state land office, did it through a company called Cypress Inc.
See, you see what I'm saying now? So not only just the ranch itself was huge, but he was renting and leasing properties out, you know, next to his ranch. So just imagine, and imagine this. Imagine you have a business that's on his property somehow. Imagine that he's leasing properties outside of there also. And you might have a business on one of the properties that he leases, the land, just something, or you might work for him in some strange way indirectly. In other words, this man owned this town. Like, he is the man running this town at this time. He is the main influencer in this town, Stanley. He is, when you come into Stanley, he's probably giving the local police a check. You see what I'm saying? He's probably donating to the local police. He probably means everything to a lot of people that often need some assistance. I'm not saying these are poor people, but I just mean like need some business advice, business help, la 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 la, on and on and on. Not to mention the fact that this road, right, this road here, where is that at? Is it over here? Right. This road, and you look at the highway, this is 41. But if you go out here, right, and you zoom out, that's 41, right? It's off of 41. Somebody just pointed out it's like 30 miles if you go in one direction and 10 miles to 41 if you go to the right, something like that. Did I remember that right? I forget who wrote that, but I saw your message. I appreciate that. Right, and then you zoom out some more, and you zoom out some more, and you zoom out some more. This is about to the border. What did they say? It's like 4 hours to the border, right? So this, I'm sorry, this is firmly in the trafficking routes, period. You know, yeah, Phoenix is a neighbor, by the way, to New Mexico, but yeah, this is clearly, you know, different types of trafficking. So to me, it just seems like a lot was going on here just by what I'm hearing. But let's just play it back a little bit more.
Stephanie Garcia Richard, who sent a letter to the New Mexico Department of Justice and the U.S. Attorney's Office requesting a full investigation. According to KOB4, Epstein had apparently leased land around this ranch from the state land office, did it through a company called Cypress Inc., but Garcia Richard ended that lease in light of what happened with Epstein. And in a further escalation, the Chief Deputy Attorney General, James Grayson, said the Department of Justice is taking these allegations seriously, only has so much information right now to go forward with because they're working to try to get the original documents to try to verify these accusations. Grayson saying, quote, "As we understand it, the allegations appear to be unsubstantiated and stem from an anonymous individual referencing events that purportedly occurred more than 6 years ago."
Okay, this is the DOJ's response. Yeah. I mean, you just tell me, does the DOJ sound credible, you know, to you? They don't sound credible to me at all, you know, and this is not, I'm not saying, I'm not picking Democrat or Republican sides over this. I don't give a damn. I'm sorry. But there needs to be a point in grown up folks' minds where that shit don't matter and that you can't pull one over my head. Like, it shouldn't matter what political party they were appointed by. This makes no police sense. Don't you know all police don't work for the FBI? Or this, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this just in normal police work makes no sense.
Forward with because they're working to try to get the original documents to try to verify these accusations. Grayson saying, quote, "As we understand it, the allegations appear to be unsubstantiated and stem from an anonymous individual referencing events that purportedly occurred more than 6 years ago. We will work to obtain the original unredacted emails and any underlying files, as access to complete and authentic materials is critical to our assessment and planning. These circumstances raise significant concerns regarding the reliability, authenticity, and credibility of the claims. Notwithstanding those concerns, we are prepared to review and assess any verifiable information should it be provided through appropriate and lawful means."
Now, you know, the thing about it is that this is the same DOJ that went out a few days ago and said there's been no credible claims against Donald Trump, which was a flat out lie. There are credible claims. You know, and the FBI actually interviewed a person that made direct claims towards Donald Trump. Yes, they did. And that same person made claims against Jeffrey Epstein. They were credible enough that they sought the person out and interviewed them. So I just think, like, I'm sorry, no one can have it both ways. Even if think about this, MAGA, for the MAGA people that listen, you would love that Bill Richardson was caught up in this, right? Is what they say about Bill Richardson true? Well, then why can't you just accept that all this shit is probably true? I mean, more true than that, you see what I'm saying? And I don't give a goddamn about Bill Richardson. I mean, if he was doing this or part of it, he's a creep. And it appears that, like many men, he could have fallen for this. You know what I'm saying? Like many men do, like many people do, not just men, but people fall for this. People's conscience, people's sense of morality, people's sense of ethics can often be skewed through capitalism, the part of personal gain, me having financial security. Often people put financial security over other people's lives. Like, flat out. That's what drug dealers do every day. They don't give a damn if you're poisoning the community, right? They need some money to pay these goddamn bills and to take care of their kids first. Well, when you're dealing with human trafficking, sex trafficking, it's the same thing. I'm doing for me. This is a me thing, and fuck what it has to do with other people. That's on you alone, right? The consequences are on you. You deal with that, right? And I just think it's wreaking a cover up here. And the mere fact that the local government is following this shit up anyway and finds it credible, you see what I mean? Finds it concerning. To me, the FBI should find it double. They should be assisting in anything the state is doing, It just
Stephanie
seems
Garcia
strange.
Richard saying, quote, "It is our responsibility to manage this land, and if it was being used for nefarious purposes, if it was being used for criminal purposes, we need to know."
Whoa. Hold on. Let me hear that.
Verifiable information should it be provided through appropriate and lawful means. Stephanie Garcia Richard saying, quote, "It is our responsibility to manage this land, and if it was being used for nefarious purposes, if it was being used for criminal purposes, we need to know." All right, before we move on, I got to give a quick shout out to our partner.
All right. So let me see here. Let me move forward. Now he has a guest also, right? Let me see here. Here we go.
The feds seeking the unredacted copies of this email, and you had the New Mexico Department of Justice Chief of Staff Lauren Rodriguez telling Source New Mexico in a statement, quote, "While we have not yet received a response to our letter sent last Friday, we are reviewing all appropriate avenues to investigate the allegations raised, as well as any additional ones that may emerge. We also continue to engage with the Truth Commission leadership to ensure coordinated communication and meaningful participation in the ongoing fact-finding mission." I'm going to talk about the Truth Commission in a minute. Now, back to Garcia Richard. She said in an interview, while the state land office and hundreds of pages
Sherry,
of
not this FBI. Yeah, I'm just saying they always seem to be the least concerned. Ain't that some shit? Yo, Jazzy Music, what's up? What's up, yo? Good morning to you.
Zorro Ranch leasing records to the New Mexico Attorney General in 2019, Garcia Richard said, "I have a lot of frustration that we are now 7 years beyond the initial cancellation of the leases, and to my knowledge, not one member of law enforcement has investigated the ranch or state land." And in her letter to the DOJ, she added, "We are fully committed to assisting with an investigation in any way possible, including providing access to state lands adjacent to the former Zorro Ranch." So assuming, these bodies are really buried, where exactly are they?
Yeah, it sounds like that Stanley thing again, where Stanley Communications is, because they say adjacent, right? Well, somewhere, next to where his ranch was. So you got 10,000 square miles, which is the Zorro Ranch, apparently. And then you got other properties outside of that he leased and had access to, right? Basically making him the godfather of Stanley, this town, essentially.
They buried. You even had U.S. Representative Melanie Stansberry, who issued a video recorded statement.
"I spent a fair amount of my time this morning looking at the files on Zorro Ranch."
Oh, hell yeah, Jazzy. I see that. You said, Jazzy says, coming to say it's being reported that the U.S. has one more ship near Iran. Yeah, because, blow up Iran, you can distract from anything else. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? How many times it's not even fucking news anymore about blowing up Iran. You know what I mean? How many times is the U.S. going to bomb Iran? You know, for whatever reasons, this president has the least amount of confidence from the American public. And it is just so obvious that apparently you can all, and think about this. Doesn't this lend to some of this Mossad shit that people have been talking about? Don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing any of Mossad contacts with Epstein or Russia's contacts with Epstein, that they've kind of been publicized and put out there, right? But this kind of gives credence to it, like, because who are they going to refer to about anything about Iran? Obviously, it seems like they often refer to Israel. So why would Israel be, I mean, what's going on? It just seems like you can always find something on Iran, right? Whether it's true or false, that there's plenty of information and reasons to bomb Iran, right? And just right now, particularly when you're dealing with this Epstein files, it's not a good look. It almost looks like they're playing part in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just looks like that, to me, per se. To me, I will say that. It just, it seems like, yeah. By the way, Israel, can you release the Epstein files? I mean, I'm going to do a Donald Trump, some shit that Donald Trump did. He asked for Russia to release Hillary's emails. I'm asking Israel, can you release the Epstein files? Can you release any information you have on Donald Trump, any information you have on Epstein, anything? Can you help us out, American citizens? Can you help us, American citizens that have been helping you most of our lifetime? Can you help us out when we ask for help with this Epstein shit? Can you release any top secret information that you yourselves have on Epstein? Please, we're begging you,
There's some dark stuff there. And I think it's really important that our colleagues, State House Representatives Mariana Anaya and Andrea Romero, are conducting this Truth Commission, because the FBI never did a full forensic investigation of the ranch property, and it's clear that crimes were committed there, and people knew about it. There were victims who went to the FBI, who went to law enforcement, and those crimes were never followed up on.
Okay, so people went to law enforcement. People went in regarding Mexico, the Rancho ranch. Let me hear that again. One more time. Let me just bring this back. I'm just hearing this now for the first time, so let me just bear with me, y'all.
Stansberry, who issued a video recorded statement. U.S. Representative Melanie Stansberry, who issued a video recorded statement.
I spent a fair amount of my time this morning looking at the files on Zorro Ranch.
Right, so this is Zorro Ranch.
There's some dark stuff there, and I think it's really important that our colleagues, State House Representatives Mariana Anaya and Andrea Romero, are conducting this Truth Commission, because the FBI never did a full forensic investigation of the ranch property, and it's clear that crimes were committed there, and people knew about it. There were victims who went to the FBI, who went to law enforcement, and those crimes were never followed up on, and the ranch was sold from the estate.
So the FBI didn't do a damn thing for the victims. And you look at this place, just think about how hard it is to get information off of this damn place alive, right? I mean, how easy would that be to get information out off of this location? You basically are risking your life. This fucking place is, you have to go so far to escape it. You're on a ridge, you're on a mountain area up on it. So you got to run either, like you said, somebody said 300,000 miles to the next road, or 30,000 miles to the next road to the left, right? Here's the location here. You can see that again. you really have to risk your life. You see that? There's a location just under my video screen there. And or 10,000 miles to the main road to the left, right? Is it 10,000 miles or 10,000 square feet? I don't know. Anyway, you can see it's it takes a long time. It would take you a long time to get anywhere to a main road, right? You see that? This is 41. To get to 41, how long is that? How long is that going to take you by foot? You know, in the opposite direction, how long is that going to take you by foot? You see what I mean? So, you know, any information that you're getting from anybody, they had to first get the hell off of this property to be able to get that information to you. Yeah.
There were victims who went to the FBI, who went to law enforcement, and those crimes were never followed up on, and the ranch was sold from the estate before a full investigation could be done. So there's a lot of unanswered questions about Zorro Ranch in New Mexico, what went down there, why it was not fully investigated, why people...
Okay, so they say the ranch was sold to the estate. Let me look this up real quick. What do All right, I just want to see what they mean, what she means by that. Because to me, it's not that clear, right? But it's worth going over because I'm sure it means something people want to know. Let me see here. Okay, so let's go back here and take a look and see what it says. Here we go.
When critics or lawmakers say the ranch was sold to the estate before an investigation was done, they are typically referring to the transition of the property into the Epstein estate, a legal entity, immediately following his death in 2019, and its subsequent sale to private owners in 2023. This is a major point of contention right now. Just this week, February 17, 2026, New Mexico lawmakers launched a Truth Commission, specifically because they believe the property was never properly searched or investigated by federal or state authorities during the years it sat in legal limbo. What "sold to the estate" means: when Epstein died, all of his assets, including Zorro Ranch, became part of his estate. This is a legal bucket managed by executors whose primary job is to liquidate assets to pay off creditors and compensate victims. The problem: once a property is in estate, it is often treated as a real estate asset to be sold rather than a crime scene to be preserved. The 2023 sale. In 2023, the estate sold the ranch to San Rafael Ranch LLC, owned by the family of Texas politician Don Huffines. What this implies: the core of the frustration from victims and New Mexico legislators boils down to three main implications. 1. Failure to search for evidence. It has recently been revealed, via emails in the Epstein files, that while the FBI raided his New York mansion and his private island, they never conducted a physical raid or search of Zorro Ranch. By allowing the property to pass into the estate and then be sold to private owners, critics argue that physical evidence, hidden rooms, surveillance tapes, or DNA, may have been lost. The chain of custody for the property was broken before a thorough forensic sweep was done. 2. The buried bodies allegations. A major driver for the new 2026 investigation is an anonymous email released in recent DOJ files alleging that 2 foreign girls were buried on the property. Because the ranch was sold and is now being rebranded as a Christian retreat, Rancho de San Rafael, there are fears that any potential remains or clues could be built over or disturbed. 3. Political, looking the other way. The fact that no investigation was triggered by state officials for years, even after Epstein's 2019 arrest, implies a level of public corruption or negligence. The connection: Epstein bought the land.
Wow, exactly. It implies a level of public corruption? Is that yes? It implies the fact that no investigation was triggered by the state officials for years, even after Epstein's 2019 arrest, implies a level of public corruption or negligence. There it is. I mean, yeah, it sounds like it's the same thing that happened in Florida. We own the police, we own the DA, we own the FBI type of story here. Yeah.
And from a former New Mexico governor and had deep ties to local politicians. The implication: lawmakers are now investigating whether local authorities intentionally avoided the ranch to protect influential figures who may have visited. Current status: February 2026, the new Truth Commission has subpoena power and is currently interviewing survivors who say they were abused at that specific ranch.
Okay, so the Truth Commission, I'm going to look that up also. Damn, that's great. I mean, and again, will the FBI say that these are credible, right? That these statements from these victims, alleged victims, are credible? Will they say that? Because they just keep seeming like nothing is credible. Nothing's worth following up on. I mean, I don't know. Again, when you're so isolated and you're a victim of sex trafficking, not only are you physically isolated because that ranch was huge, right? You're not going to just run. Number two, no type of victim is going to just run. Okay. Number two, what it takes to prove that you're a victim of sex trafficking, like somebody said in the chat too, I think it was Purple, the scars, the physical scars, the scars aren't the same. Sometimes the scars are mental, not physical, right? And then also, who's going to believe you? It's one-on-one. If no one else is saying yes, 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 and I got your back, then who's going to corroborate what you're saying? So then what happens? And what if there's always a team of people in the sex traffickers unit that's corroborating, or helping them? You see what I mean? Like, what if the town is in on it? What if the state is in on it? What if the corruption is that deep? I mean, think about that. That speaks to a level of public, what does it say? The fact that no investigation was triggered by state officials. They already had victims that went on record. Even after Epstein's 2019 arrest, implies a level of public corruption. So let me just go on from there.
Demanding unredacted federal files to see why the FBI never searched the New Mexico property. The current owners, the Huffines family, have stated they had no connection to Epstein and have promised full and complete cooperation if law enforcement finally decides to search the land.
Right.
Would you like me to look for more details on the Truth Commission's specific goals for the next few months?
Yeah, let me hear about that, but let's go on here first.
And frankly, as a New Mexican, to anyone who was hurt there, my heart goes out to you.
Guess what happened yesterday? New Mexico lawmakers on Monday, they passed legislation to launch a full-scale investigation here. You have a committee of both Republicans and Democrats who are going to have subpoena power. They're going to try to get testimony from survivors of the alleged abuse that happened at this ranch and local residents to testify, all at the state capitol. So the person who maybe sent that 2019 email, will they come forward? I don't know. But according to Reuters, this probe is going to cost about $2.5 million, reportedly funded through a settlement between the AG's office and financial services companies for failing to address the alleged abuses at this property. And the idea is here, they want to transform the law. They want to amend the law that may have allowed Jeffrey Epstein to allegedly operate the way he's accused of operating at this property. And the preliminary findings are due in July. There's a full final report that's going to be due by year's end, and you have to wonder, is it going to include allegations about dead bodies? Representative Andrea Romero, she said that they're going to use subpoenas and public records and testimonies, quote, to put the whole story together. And in a statement following the vote to launch all this, Romero said that, quote, New Mexicans deserve to know the truth about what went on at the Zorro Ranch and who knew about it. We have heard years of allegations and rumors about Epstein's activities in New Mexico, but unfortunately, federal investigators have failed to put together an official record. With this Truth Commission, we can finally fill in the gaps by investigating the failures that led to the horrific allegations of abuse and crime at Zorro Ranch, so we can learn from them them and prevent such atrocities from taking place in our state going forward. This is a complication, maybe a complication, gotta mention it. So while the 1,200 acres that were previously leased by Epstein's company is still public and unleased, this is according to Garcia Richard, guess who owns the actual ranch today? The family of Texas businessman and politician Donald Huffines. It was bought in 2023 by an LLC. This LLC was apparently created just 1 month before. And Huffines is actually running for statewide comptroller's office. And according to the New Mexican, the Zorro Ranch was renamed the San Rafael Ranch, located at San Rafael Road. By the way, what was the purchase price? Reportedly, it was listed in 2021 for over $27 million, but the sales price may have dropped to $18 million. We don't know what it was actually bought for. Although I will tell you, there's a side note. The LLC made the argument, given the ties to Epstein, along with a lower sales price, that's why it was actually valued at only $13.4 million in 2023 for tax purposes. Interesting side note. By the way, public business filings apparently indicated that at one point, Huffines' son, Colin, was the manager of the LLC. Then you had Alan Blakemore, spokesperson for the family, who released a statement saying, 4 years after Mr. Epstein's death, the Huffines family purchased property in New Mexico listed at public auction whose proceeds benefited his victims. Prior to the auction listing, they had never visited the property. Now, I will tell you this. The Huffines family did indicate that they would fully cooperate with this New Mexico investigation if authorities wanted to search the property. That's big. And it is being reported that the feds haven't even searched this ranch as of December 2019. So one of the things that's come out is you had the former AG, Hector Balderas, wrote a letter to then U.S. Attorney John Anderson in October of 2019 about a joint investigation. Quote, "My office has been actively investigating and assisting other state and federal agencies with their investigations related to criminality perpetrated in New Mexico by Jeffrey Epstein." And Balderas wrote and requested that the United States Attorney's Office, quote, "explore initiating the process to seize Epstein's New Mexico land holdings." But now all these years later, it's coming up again. And by the way, Zorro Ranch, it came up quite a bit in the Epstein files. Several photographs released in the Epstein files show women or girls, their faces apparently redacted, at Zorro Ranch. I'll give you an example. In the files, there's a 2015 itinerary, or that's what it appears to be, presumably for Epstein, and it says Saturday, August 1st, 2015, Zorro. Sunday, August 2nd, 2015, Zorro, San Francisco. Reminder, late into the island today, 11:18 a.m., depart Zorro, 12:18 p.m., arrive San Jose. There's a lot of correspondence regarding the ranch, too, in the Epstein files. In fact, it appears the ranch is mentioned over 4,000 times. A lot of the correspondence between 2012 and 2018, you have the ranch as the sender or receiver in emails. There's even an email signature that says Zorro Management LLC. So with all that in mind, what would it take for there to be an excavation of potential bodies on this property? And if bodies are found, what would it show? That's what I want to talk about. Okay, so I want to bring on Richland County Coroner.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think what you do when it comes to this many victims is you have to understand that whatever you don't do, you could be failing. You could be failing a lot of people, because if there are bodies buried on this property and you do not look, it's basically you who is complicit now, and in turning a blind eye towards human life. Right. And right. And it, to me, it just says, how much do you value human life? This whole story, how people react to it tells me how much you value human life. So when I hear people make arguments, excuse me, hold on. All right, yeah, I got a little cold this week. When I hear people make excuses for this kind of stuff or make light of it or say they don't even believe after they hear all the preponderance of evidence that they don't believe, to me that points to how much they value human life. Like, to me, it does. And I'm not going to get up here and try to force people to value human life if they don't. But I'm just going to be aware myself of how many people don't actually value human life, because in my world, that makes you a danger to people. and let alone the fact that there will be government officials that don't value human life, and they get your tax dollars every day you go to work. You pay their salary, and yet so far too many of them don't value human life if it's not their own or their own family members. Now, if you think your job is to only value human life when it's your family or your family or people close to you, you shouldn't be in government. You shouldn't be in any type of government, in any type of capacity, state or federal. You shouldn't be a senator. You shouldn't be a congressional member. You shouldn't be a president. You shouldn't be a Supreme Court justice, period. If how you think is that it only matters when it's someone close to you, in proximity to you, that's foul as hell. You don't deserve taxpayer dollars at all. You should be the last person that ever gets any taxpayer dollars ever. Taxpayers should just totally get rid of you, send you to the moon, because you're doing the exact opposite of what the minimal should be expected.
Dr. Nada Rutherford, thank you so much for taking the time. It's good to see you. Okay, this is a big allegation. We don't know if this is true. Obviously, we're talking about the fact that now an investigation is being launched into this property. It's about sexual abuse allegations, but who knows what else they might be able to find during the course of this.
Oh, let me see here. What you say, JV? Have you looked into the video and the photos of G. Maxwell and how it's not her currently in that minimum security? I mean, I've seen it. Yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't seen too many photos, but I've heard that she's like having picnics, walking around with a little puppy dog, ordering food, got visitors basically daily. Yeah, it's supposed to be like a spa for prisoners. You know what I'm saying? Anyone connected to sex trafficking is not even supposed to be there. And I bet she's living her best jail life ever. If you're going to have a stay in prison, it may as well be the Ghislaine Maxwell stay, because I hear that she's getting the royal treatment. And, but I haven't seen too many videos myself. I've seen a couple of photos and, but it's all out there. Just the mere fact that someone says it. She's put into this prison, this minimum security prison that no sex trafficker is supposed to be. And the timing of that and what happened around all that is the Epstein files, right? So they rewarded her for her participation in that interview with Todd Blanche. They rewarded her for doing that and sent her to this place. So, I mean, to me, that's enough. I don't even talk about a preponderance of evidence. There's so much evidence to prove that there is a cover up by the fucking United States government, like flat out right now. In fact, you cannot prove that it's not a cover up. I mean, anyone can prove it's a cover up because they admit to not following the law. They're not releasing the Epstein files. And by the way, they say that there's not just 6 million. Before last week, the number was 6 million files estimated to be, and 3 million are released now, blah, blah, blah. And FBI is going to slowly release the other 6 million, other 3 million. No, the new number is 100 million files, 100 million files. So that means they've only released 2% of the Epstein files so far. How is that not a cover up? So, yeah.
Residents and survivors speak out about what they saw. What would it take for authorities to actually go around the property and try to excavate to find bodies? Let's start right there.
Oh, you talking about her face? It looks like it to me. People age, man. People age, bro. Is that what you're talking about? Her face, how she looked? Nah, it looks like it to me. It looks like it to me. That's how people that are 20 years older don't look the same. She was done in 2019. She looks very close. Of course, she don't have her $1 billion hair, cut, and her makeup. She doesn't have that old Ghislaine Maxwell, but she looks close to me, man. I don't. And it's the same thing with Epstein. I mean, listen, his own brother said has viewed his body. His brother knows him better than anybody else. Why would people refuse to believe the brother? I mean, he's saying release the files. He's saying government officials are likely, implicit in these acts, complicit in the acts, right? So, I mean, why would people not believe his own brother? I mean, I don't think you can get away with this that way. I don't think it's that spooky, but there are people that think so. I mean, hey, but guess what? Maybe that's spooky to you. Maybe it's not the real Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, well, what about this then? What about any of it? Do you trust any of it? I mean, see, that's my whole thing. Like, what is it about it that you don't trust? And where do you draw the line? Do you want all the files released or not? Whether you believe it's Ghislaine Maxwell that got prosecuted or is in jail, or you believe it's a copy, right? Where do you stand on the whole matter? To me, that's what matters most. Like, where do you stand? You pay the taxes to keep these files. And if you're an American citizen and you live in the U.S., or you're a person that lives in the U.S., you pay the taxes that keep these files sealed away from you. Do you agree with that or not? Do you believe at the very least all these files need to be released so people can go know what's going on or not? Outside of that, the rest I don't really care about, because if you just release the files, the truth will be shown. Then people won't have to believe, So that's how I look at it.
First of all, you have New Mexico. The terrain there is going to be extremely difficult. It's dry, it's rugged terrain, it's rough. So any excavation that's going to happen, they're going to need to have some idea about where this could possibly take place on this property, unless they're going to dig up the entire property, which is not very prudent of them. So they
I just have to point this out to you, Jay, and it's not to be in a debate or anything, but just the logic behind it. If this was not the real Ghislaine Maxwell, then why are they bothering to send her to a minimum security prison and give her a phone and walk around with a dog? And what's the scam behind that? Is that the idea that you won't bring attention to you by doing that? Like, if that's the idea, that is backwards. It's only drawing more attention to how foul the DOJ is. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just saying, bro, it doesn't add up. If you ask me, the logic doesn't add up. But, there's always going to be conspiracies.
Some sort of ground penetrating devices that could help to look and see if there's some sort of grave there, if they put this person in a box, if they buried them with something special that's not supposed to be in the ground naturally. So they're going to need a lot of technology first before they.
I personally think they just grinded the people up. I don't think look, farms, you have wood hackers, right? That people use, wood hackers. And of course, some of them are better than others, right? Where you throw tree slabs in there and it just disintegrates it. Bzzz. I'm sorry. It's much easier to dispose of a body through something like that. And you spread it out. You're not really going to have, you're not going to be able to find out who the person was. You see what I'm saying? Because too many of the pieces will be destroyed, likely. The jawbone would be destroyed. So, that's part of it. And other things, But then again, you could probably find human remains. You could look for them, and you could probably find human remains, because you will still be able to find small particles, you know what I mean, that will let you know some human's body is here somehow. You know what I mean? But any other evidence, I don't know. But then again, you would never know if you don't look. You would never know if you don't look.
Around this property.
And it's a big property. It's a big property. And this allegation is not even clear about when these people were allegedly buried there, which makes me wonder, even if you were digging, what could you potentially find? What would be left over?
You're going to have skeletal remains at this point. These allegations purport that this happened so long ago. And so not only did they say that these are possibly minors, so you have smaller bodies that are potentially buried. You have scavengers that are in this area, again, animals that are indigenous to this area that are, again, it is very hard to dig a grave unless you have special equipment. So, and especially on that type of terrain. So did they have special equipment? We know that, supposedly these people have a lot of money, they have a lot of resources. So if they tapped into those resources, they could have done this properly. But again, that's why the technology piece of this is going to be so important, to be able to see where they could have possibly buried someone. And then the amount of time that has passed, it's going to be grown over. You're not going to be able to see, freshly disturbed ground as you would for someone who has maybe been recently buried. And so again, this is going to take a long time. And those excavation efforts are probably just going to reveal skeletal remains, which then you're going to have to extract DNA from possibly the femur bones. And then who are these supposed minors that were there? Do their families know that they're missing? Where were they trafficked from? So not only are you trying to pinpoint.
Look at how small these people are. Look at how small their bones are, yo.
Country of origin, possibly, since they said that these minors were possibly from foreign countries. Now you're going to have to try to track down family utilizing DNA. Skeletal remains, again, you look at the femur bone, you're trying to gather the DNA from there, but what else could you do? Dental records and things, but you must know the identity of the person.
For the first time in
I don't know what to say, but those bodies look very, very young. And yeah, they don't look, they don't look, teenager-y even. They look like 12 years old, some of those bodies. Yeah, very, very young. 12, more headed towards that. Let me just pull this back a little bit. Is it going to show us again? Right. These are little bones right here. These are little people. Like, these are not people that look like they're anywhere close to being an adult. There's some teenagers that might look like adults, might be big, but these are little ones. These are little people here. Yeah, it's just worth noting. It's
trying to gather the DNA from there, but what else could you do? Dental records and things, but you must know the identity of the person in order to be able to do that.
Can you elaborate on that? So even if they find remains, you're saying it could be very, very difficult to establish A, identity, but B, cause and manner of death?
Absolutely. Unless they did something that affected the skeleton of the person, soft tissue injuries are not going to be readily apparent in someone who has been buried, especially if they've been buried for a really long time. That soft tissue eventually becomes desiccated and goes away. It goes back to the earth. And so you're not going to see much. So unless they were blunt force trauma, stabbed, shot, something like that, you may not see those things. You could see broken bones potentially, but again, how well preserved is the skeleton? And that's going to be very important. How quickly were these persons supposedly buried? Again, lots of allegations, lots of speculation, but if you are searching for bones, then you're going to need to.
Let me see something here. Let me look at this picture one more time. I just need to examine it a little closer. Sorry about this. 2 seconds. Let me see. Take my camera off. Okay, this body looks about, 15, 16, maybe, right? A little older, but the one before doesn't look like that. And not that I'm saying it matters, but, these are all sex trafficking victims. Either way, but all right, let's continue.
Very important. How quickly were these persons supposedly buried? Again, lots of allegations, lots of speculation, but if you are searching for bones, then you're going to need technology to look over all of that terrain.
So in other words, if we take these allegations as true that you had these girls die as a result of strangulation, it may be very difficult to actually see that.
Yes, it will. And again, how well was the body preserved before burial? Meaning the hyoid bone, which is located here in the neck, it's a protected bone, but usually that's what we see broken in someone who has died from strangulation. And so you'll see that piece again of the hyoid hyoid bone broken off, but you also see soft tissue injury. So if the body is not well preserved, then you're not going to see those things. And again, after all this time, all of that soft tissue is going to be gone. So in a regular autopsy where we suspect strangulation, you're going to see petechial hemorrhaging. You're going to see bleeding within the strap muscles of the neck. You're going to see that damage that happens from someone being strangled.
Yeah, the muscle
But
tissue is
in
gone. Muscle tissue is gone at this point.
skeletons, you don't see those things again unless there is severe blunt force injury to that area. And again, small, tiny bones. You have insects and things that are going to feed on the body when it's buried. And so again, you may lose a lot of that evidence.
A couple of questions about that, and I apologize if you're repeating yourself. I just want to clarify. Is there any way to determine the age, whether it's from an anthropologist coming in or looking at the, like you said, maybe dental records if it's possible, or the bones? Is there any way to determine age?
Yes, absolutely. And this is where a forensic anthropologist is going to be really important. We have two that work in our office, PhDs, who teach me so much on a daily basis about just how they make these determinations. So femur length is going to be important. They're going to measure those bones. They're going to make sure that any part of that skeletal remain that they find, that they try to put that body together as anatomically correct as possible, and then they'll start getting their information from there. So again, the measurements of those bones, not only just the femur length, but also head circumference and those different things, basing those anthropology measurements, those are going to be very important in terms of assessing them and comparing them to what someone's age could be for the measurements that they find. So again, I always refer to forensic anthropologists on that, and they're going to need quite a few if they do get to a point where they're going to do excavation, because you don't want to lose any evidence. You can't just dig it up. It has to be done very carefully, methodically, and it's a very time-intensive process.
So, in other words, that's probably unlikely at this point. I mean, they could, again, if you don't try, you won't find anything. If you don't look, you won't find anything. Not looking is not proof positive of no crime being committed. Not looking is just saying I refuse to look to even find out. Right. So, but at this point, even outside of this, it seems like even though the DOJ says there's no corroborating evidence, to me it sounds like there's some corroborating evidence of crimes going on there, clearly. And again, it's just a matter of, are they going to prosecute people, charge people, and investigate people or not? And how do you investigate people when you're the DOJ and you don't even believe that the different victims corroborate anything? There's multiple victims writing about this place, but that just don't matter at all. They say they were there themselves. That don't matter at all. So if you don't investigate, you're not going to come up with financial records. You're not going to corroborate any connection with Epstein if you don't investigate yourself. If you don't interview the people that they claim did these things to them, how do you corroborate it? I mean, come on. It's just, in any case, let me see here. Jay said, my opinion. Oh, okay, let me see. From watching a forensic scientist compare the video to known photos of Maxwell showed points in the face where it didn't line up or match up, or not trying to add confusion. Yeah, well, for me, again, I'm going to look at behavior also. I'm going to qualify behavior. And to me, again, I don't know. I can't tell you if they swapped out anybody, right? Because I wasn't there, obviously, right? But to me, it also, what happens is behavior, other things, that go along with it. Like when people said this about Epstein, and take note of this. Why do we keep coming up with this swap theory with every goddamn crime? I mean, why is it every crime there's a swap theory? The person is swapped out. How is that possible? But in any case, they said it about Jeffrey Epstein before they saying this about Maxwell. So that's worth noting, right? So one time people already said they switched Epstein out. Now they're saying they switched Maxwell out. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein's brother reviewed the body. Well, don't you think he would know his own brother? Probably better than I would. I'm assuming. This thing with Maxwell. Well, her family members, right? And secondly, okay, let's say her family members will lie about it, right? Okay, but the DOJ, why would they put a swapped out person, Maxwell? Why would they take her and bother to swap her out to another prison, to a what do they call it? To a prison that has no security. Why would they do that if they didn't want to draw attention to themselves? It just, to me, that part of it backfires. It seems like if you put her in a less strict security situation, it seems like you're pointing a finger at yourself now as being part of a conspiracy. So I just don't see how those things match up. But in any case, there's one other thing I wanted to do here with the Zorro Ranch thing. Let me pull this up. I wanted to find out, just in terms of trafficking, how valuable is that region? Let me see. Regarding trafficking, how trafficking or missing people in the region of the country, and more specific, the region of the ranch, right, is human trafficking going on in general? Okay. What about suspected serial killers? That's what I want to know about this situation here. Are there, in that region, we saw the region that we're looking at. Let's see here. The region is this area right here, Zorro Ranch. It's about 4 hours from the border of Mexico, right? It's a neighbor to Mexico. And Santa Fe is another town to the north. Okay, but then when you go down, here's the Mexican border is right here, right? So you can see at the bottom of the screen where it says where we get, not New Mexico. Oh, you all can't see there. Let's go a little bit further right here. So this would be close to the border. This is the other side of the border, right? Right there is the other side of the border. And the border is right here. You can see this little line underneath where it says a la Magordo, right? So north of that, 4 hours north, is the ranch, right? Stanley, New Mexico. So I'm just curious about this region in general. Let me zoom out some more so we can see what region we're talking about. Right, we're talking about the border region of South America, right? Or Central America, I'm sorry. The border region to Central America, right? North and Central America, right? This is a highway for humans, for people in general looking to have a better life in the United States. This is a trafficking highway. Drug dealers use it because Americans buy a lot of drugs. And so therefore, that's a huge industry. And, it's $1 billion industry, and only second to human trafficking. And so, there's a highway because of that. Sometimes they're intertwined, et cetera, et cetera. So let me go back to this one here and see. It says, let me just see what it says. I'll let it play along. Yeah, let's see here. New Mexico. Oops.
New Mexico, and specifically the region around Santa Fe and Albuquerque, has a complex history with both human trafficking and high-profile criminal violence. While the Zorro Ranch is currently the focus of a new 2026 legislative investigation, the broader region has its own ongoing issues. 1. Human trafficking in New Mexico. Human trafficking is an active and significant issue in the state, often following the I-40 and I-25 corridors, which intersect in Albuquerque, about 50 miles from the ranch. The hub effect. Traffickers often use Albuquerque as a transit point between the West Coast and the South. Targeted demographics. In New Mexico, there is a severe crisis involving missing and murdered indigenous women and relatives, MMIWR. This demographic is frequently targeted for both labor and sex trafficking due to systemic vulnerabilities and jurisdictional complexities on tribal lands. Recent legal action. As of February 2026, the New Mexico Attorney General's office has shifted toward targeting the financial infrastructure of trafficking. They recently secured agreements with major banks to dedicate $17 million specifically to human trafficking prevention. 2. Serial killers and cold cases. The region near the ranch has been the site of some of the most notorious serial killer investigations in U.S. history, some of which remain active today. The West Mesa Bone Collector, active, cold. This is the most famous case in the area. In 2009, the remains of 11 women and an unborn child were found buried in shallow graves on a mesa on the west side of Albuquerque. Current status, February 2026. The case remains officially unsolved, though police have focused on several persons of interest over the years, including Lorenzo Montoya, who died in 2006. Families are currently pushing for modern investigative genetic genealogy, to finally close the case. Labar Cephalaki, current case. As of early 2026, federal prosecutors are moving forward with a major case against Labar Cephalaki, an alleged serial predator and murderer. He is accused of a series of kidnappings, sexual assaults, and murders targeting Native American men across New Mexico, including the Santa Fe and Albuquerque areas, between 2022 and 2024. Sean Lannon, convicted 2024, a more recent spree killer, who claimed to have killed 16 people, mostly in New Mexico. He was sentenced in May 2024 for 4 murders in Albuquerque and Grants, NM. 3. The Ranch Connection. The reason people often link the serial killer conversation to Zorro Ranch is the allegation of burials. Important note, while there is a 2026 Truth Commission investigating the ranch, it is vital to distinguish between proven serial killer sites, like West Mesa, and alleged criminal activity at the ranch. The commission is currently investigating whether the seclusion of the 10,000-acre property was used to hide victims permanently. Why federal authorities, FBI, admitted in 2019 emails that they never physically searched the property, despite the bone collector history in the same state making authorities usually hyper-vigilant about desert burial sites. Would you like me to track the specific progress of the Truth Commission hearings scheduled for the end of this month?
Yeah, that's, I mean, sounds to me like that's a whole lot of trafficking or, serial killing, missing people coming up. Let me see. Zorro Ranch. Look, so here we go. Zorro Ranch is here, right? Albuquerque is here. So this is the backyard of the bone collector, basically, right? 40, it's only one highway, major highway that connects these two. You see that? And then there's routes. Of course, these small routes. This would be 41 right here, near the Zorro Ranch. To the right of the Zorro Ranch would be 41. And that's just where it says Client's Corners. Also, that's the bottom of 41. But to the left here, 40. So you would take 41 down to 40 over to Albuquerque. So this is the backyard. Zorro Ranch is the backyard of Albuquerque. Yeah, and now let me see how many people have come up missing in that area. How many people have come up missing in that area before and what ages and sex? Okay, let me just see if that returns anything interesting. Just curious about this. Now let me see. Yeah, so I mean, again, all the information is coming in. People are liable to think multitude of things, but to me, it is just who knows what the information tells you, but we won't know until all the Epstein files are released, what the government knows. And the real conspiracy, if you ask me, behind the Epstein files is very simple. This should be something every American citizen can get behind, no matter what your political party is or isn't. To me, every American citizen should be able to get behind the idea that the real crime going on here is the government cover up. That has to come to an end. And, I'm sorry, safety is key. And if you don't know who is going around doing unsafe things and how they're behaving at the expense of the taxpayer, if our law enforcement is bought off and controlled by sex traffickers or by foreign people of foreign countries, or by a foreign country, if our Justice Department and our White House is controlled by sex traffickers or controlled by foreign entities, that represents danger to every American citizen, regardless of your race, your gender, your, anything else, your ethnicity, anything else, regardless of how rich or poor you are, no matter, all of that stuff. It should be a problem for any American citizen. I almost can't even consider you an American citizen if you don't have a problem, if you don't get what I'm saying, if you don't see that this is the biggest You know, that would be the biggest crime, a government cover up. And we should all want anyone connected with any government cover up to be outed, you know? And to be put out of government, period. Maybe brought up on charges of treason or whatever. But in any case, the region of New Mexico surrounding the Zorro Ranch, Santa Fe, and Albuquerque counties, the issue of missing persons is tied to two major crises: the unsolved West Mesa bone collector case and the missing and murdered indigenous people MMIP crises. Okay, according to the New Mexico Department of Justice MMIP portal and law enforcement data as of February 2026, that's this year, right? Missing persons in the immediate region. There are currently roughly 197 active missing person cases listed in New Mexico Department of Justice database specifically for the state, with a high concentration of Santa Fe and Albuquerque areas, the urban hubs closest to the ranch. Okay. Age groups. A high percentage of the cases involve children and teens. There are over 30 active cases for missing children and teens in New Mexico currently. Demographics: missing population is disproportionately indigenous and Hispanic. Okay. Recent cases: late 2025, early 2026. Nadine Atilano, right? Last seen November 20th. Okay. And Anthony Hernandez, 17. So 15 and 17. The West serial killer victims were, okay, a large percentage of them were female. All females? Damn. One baby fetus? Damn, that's interesting. One victim was 4 months pregnant, found with mother. Okay, I get that. Let me see here. And what about the missing? What about the missing people in the period of time Epstein owned the ranch and properties, right? Properties, sorry. He leased. I just want to close this out on this note. Let me see here. I'll be back at my normal scheduled time. That is, that will be 3 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, USA. That will be around 12, between 12 and 1 Pacific Time, right? Depending on where you are. That will be 9 a.m. That will be 9 a.m. Central European Time where I am. Let me see here. During the period of Jeffrey Epstein's owned Zorro Ranch, 1993-2019, the region saw several high-profile disappearance and border crises of missing persons that investigators are now re-examining for potential overlaps. The New Mexico Truth Commission, launched February 17, 2026, is specifically looking at whether the seclusion of the ranch was never searched by the FBI, allowing criminal activity to stay off the radar. The buried bodies allegations, the most specific connection with missing persons, involves a 2019 email unsealed in recent Department of Justice files. A claim an anonymous tip stated that 2 foreign girls died by strangulation and were buried in the hills of the Zorro Ranch on the orders of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Current action: New Mexico's Land Commissioner and state DOJ are currently seeking unredacted files from the FBI to verify if the victims match any missing persons reports from the late 90s or early 2000s. Overlap with the West Mesa bone collector. While no direct link has been proven, the time and the demographics are a major point in the interest of researchers. The period most West Mesa victims went missing are 2001 and 2005, exactly when Epstein's activity at the ranch was at its peak. Damn, that's a coincidence. That's it. Or is it? The victims, 11 women, 1 fetus, were found buried on the Mesa 50 miles from the ranch. 11 women. And these are young. These are females. These aren't even women. 15 females. Look at this shit. These are not women. These are girls. 11 women, 1 fetus were found. Damn, why did they say that? Similarities, because it's drawing information from different news articles. So one news article must have stated it this way. Okay, similarities. The victims were mostly young, ages 15 to 32. Okay. 2 victims, Jamie Barella, Senalia Edwards, were only 15 years old. The age, okay, so it's a mix. The age demographic that aligns with several of Epstein's known survivors who testified about being abused at the ranch. So they testified about being abused, and the DOJ says they don't have a lot of credible evidence. I don't know. But let me see. 3 missing people in the region, 1993 to 2019, during Epstein's 26-year ownership. Okay, so that's 26 years. He was operating in this area. Several individuals disappeared from the immediate Santa Fe Stanley area. While most are considered unrelated, they represent the missing persons landscape and time. I mean, I wonder how often Epstein just went into the town himself. I'm curious about that. Or if he just stayed on his ranch, or what he did. I'm sure he went to town I don't know. He had to do it sometime. I'm curious about what people who live in the town have to say about Jeffrey Epstein when they ran into him. I'm curious if there's any information like that. I'm going to look that up real quick. Let me see. Now, back to these missing persons, right? Selania Edwards, 2003. That's when Jeffrey Epstein was active. Female. Okay, found on West Mesa in 2009. Okay, Jamie Barella, 2004, 15, found in West Mesa, 2009. Let me see something. Okay, found on West Mesa. Okay, West Mesa. Let me go to this map here. This is Zorro Ranch. Now let me see here. Oh no, I gotta pull it up another way. Right here, West Mesa. Okay, that's in Albuquerque. All right, let me just pull back here and see. Okay, so West Mesa is in Albuquerque. Okay, y'all saw that. Here it is. West Mesa is in Albuquerque, right there. That's that district. Okay, but if we pull out, let me see if I go right here. Say West Mesa, right? Can I do this? I can say West Mesa. Boom. Let's put that right. Let's put that there. That's a location. All right, so, and then if we zoom out from West Mesa, and you go over here to 40, right? You go over here to 40. Where is the ranch? The ranch is where? Over here? That's funny how I don't see 40, but let me just look it up here. I will do that. Okay, I did that again. It's not really here. It's up here. Let me see. Let's go back to this area here. 41. Okay, so it's over here. All right, let me just put a little pin there. Okay, where's the pin at? All right, so those two areas, how far are they from each other? That's there. Okay, that's the distance right there. Yeah, exactly. This is the backyard, basically. This is the backyard area between these two. And really the ranch is up here. To the right, y'all can see that. Rancho Zorro. And then this is the area from the west in Albuquerque, west, whatever that's called. Yeah, so it's not that, there's these major mountains in between them, right? Right here. I wonder what those mountains are called, by the way. Is it called the Mesa? Is that what it's called? West, is that West? Yeah, West Mesa. West Mesa. That must be what it's called. Mesa. Is that the Mesa Mountains? Let me just see here. Just for reference. Mesa. Is that a thing? Who knows? Yeah, it is. Okay. Mesa Mountains. Okay. So if we pull out here, or is it? No. Oh, yeah. Damn. So that is the Mesa. Okay, I got it. But they start in Colorado. Damn, that's deep. Okay. Well, it's interesting to kind of see how this state is linked up, how it works. So that these are called the Mesa Mountains. This is the bottom end of the Mesa Mountains. Okay. So, all right. Well, that's interesting to know. I don't know shit about this area, so every time it's like a learning experience for me. Let me see. This is Albuquerque, right? And here's the Zorro Ranch. So y'all can see that. Here's the Zorro Ranch again. And this is Albuquerque. And this is the West Mesa. So I guess they call it because it's at the bottom tip of whatever this is. These mountains here. So but all right, so let me just go back to this. Now these are the victims. West Mesa. Okay, Santa Fe. Right, that's over there. Santa Fe. Okay. Now let me see here. Some cases predate the ranch but remain open to local databases. Well, okay. Why lease land matters, right? Epstein didn't just own 7,500 acres. He leased an additional 1,200 acres, right? For agricultural purposes. What? The implications, because these areas were state leases, there was almost zero oversight of what was happening on the land. The investigation 2026 Truth Commission is investigating if these state lease locations were used as a buffer zone to prevent people from accidentally stumbling onto the property, or if they were used for more nefarious purposes. Let me see something. Can you outline on a map where these state leased lands were in proximity to the ranch? Let me just see this last part, and then I'm gonna get up out of here. I appreciate everybody chilling out, taking it slow with me today. Yeah, you said he's a farmer, Eric. Let me see. Okay. Let me see. Google says it's about half an hour drive from the ranch. Okay, let me go and see what it says here then. Okay, there's a map. What happened to my map, man? While I cannot project a custom shaded overlay onto the live map, I can precisely describe the boundaries of these state leased lands relative to the ranch and the surrounding Stanley area based on New Mexico State Office records. Okay, but you can't just draw me a map, man. Come on. Hold on. It said I don't need a live map. So show me what you can do. Yeah, I want to just get a basic illustration of it first. And then, okay. Okay, so it's saying it can't do this? How can it not do this? Okay, so here it is. Let me see here. Land type. Can you give me Google links? Hold on. Here we go. I think this will be all right. So this is this what they say. So okay, so I got it. So this is where why Comtech keeps coming up. So that Comtech was one of the least areas. Creston is one of the least areas. Okay, so that makes sense now. So if we go back into this is the ranch, right? This is why we had confusion. You could see Stanley's all the way down here to the right. And let me see, Stanley is there. Right. Okay, so let me make it a little smaller. That's so interesting how we just saw the ranch. Here it is. So Zorro Ranch. So I don't know why that ranch just disappeared. That's weird. But it did have it up on the screen a second ago. There it is, Zorro Ranch. Y'all can see that here, right? So, and this is Stanley. This is Contact Communications. So that's there. And then what else did it say? It says Creston. Now, where the hell is Creston at? Creston, is that this way or is that this way? I bet you it's this way, right? Let me see Creston. Let me see here. Creston. No, we want Creston, New Mexico. Here we go. Okay, so that's that thing there. Creston. So that's to the north. That's to the north. So to the north and to the south, he leased the land. Okay. And what else does it say here? Let me see here. It says land type. Okay, feature proper hub. Okay, let me go up here. Caboose? What? Damn. Wait. Okay. Oh, shit. Let's listen to this. Damn, this is deep. Oh, shit. I never heard this before. This is crazy. Here we go. They're talking about a train?
To visualize the layout without a live map, you can picture the ranch as a private island of land surrounded by a buffer of state-controlled territory. The primary reason this buffer is controversial in 2026 is that it effectively allowed Epstein to control access to a massive area of New Mexico that technically belonged to the public. The layout, private versus state-leased land. The total empire spanned roughly 10,000 acres, but only about 7,600 acres were actually owned by Epstein. The rest was leased from the state. The private core, the inner circle, this is where the 26,700 square feet mansion, the private airstrip, and the Ranch Central, Village, staff housing, were located. This area was heavily gated and guarded. The state-leased buffer, the outer ring, Epstein leased roughly 1,243 acres of state trust land immediately bordering his private property. To the north, most of the leased land sat at the northern edge, encompassing a landmark ridge called the Creston. The strategy: by leasing this land, anyone trying to approach the ranch from the north would be trespassing on state land before they even reached his private gate. The caboose, in a famous 2019 report, state officials found a vintage railroad caboose parked on this state land near a petroglyph site. When they went to inspect it, they were met by ranch security who insisted on escorting them, essentially treating public land as private territory. The 2026 Truth Commission, Focus. As of February 18, 2026, the new commission is focusing on two specific areas of these state-leased lands. The blind spot, because these were state grazing leases, federal investigators, FBI, reportedly felt they lacked jurisdiction or reason to search them during the 2019 raids. The commission is investigating if this created a black hole, where evidence, or victims, could be hidden. The burial allegations. The anonymous 2019 tip about the two foreign girls specifically mentioned the hills surrounding the ranch. This matches the terrain of the state-leased land near the Creston, which is rugged, high desert territory far from the main house.
Exactly. So you see that here, that is to the north of the ranch. So that's also interesting. That's also interesting. Let me see. This is 41. Damn, they would have to drive all the way in here in a one-sided road. Only one road goes to the Zorro Ranch, and they're saying up around here, this area was leased, but this is also where they're claiming that the dead body is, or one of the dead bodies. That's interesting. All right, so
Give the map layout. Feature, land type, primary use, controversy, mansion and airstrip, private deeded, the site of the alleged abuse and trafficking, hub, the Creston Ridge, state trust, leased, site of significant petroglyphs, used to block public view, access. Northern buffer, state trust, leased, where the caboose was found, current focus for burial searches. Ranch Central, private deeded, housing for ranch hands and masseuses flown in from abroad. Latest update, February 18, 2026, the commission met today at the Santa Fe Roundhouse. They have officially signaled that they will use their $2.5 million budget to potentially fund a ground-penetrating radar, GPR, sweep of specific, high-probability zones, including the state-leased land that borders the private estate. Would you like me to track when the commission officially schedules the ground-penetrating radar survey?
Whoa, yeah, let's do that. All right, and then when I look at this information right here, it also brings me back to one other dynamic here, and that is the allegation that Epstein had CIA contacts. So the Midas Touch, they did some coverage on this. I don't know how many hours ago this was. This is a day ago, but let's check in on this. What Ben Marcellus is saying.
2014 and possibly later. You will also recall, based on our prior report, in their file about Jeffrey Epstein, pulled at Bloomberg, who does an incredible job.
And others. And the thing is that when you look at this map again, and you hear about how he's been how it's been investigated, how the Epstein stuff has been investigated, right? When you just look at it, and you think about then the state land that he was able to lease, now the state is implicated in it, right? When you hear about these kind of boundaries being purged and the type of organization, the elaborate organization that's going in around it, it makes you inside of the United States of America. Now, think about there's obviously, you got foreign actors that are able to act inside of the United States. You got the Russian mob, you got the Russian state commingling together with doing their activities in the U.S. They can be there's all types. Espionage that's just a normal thing that happens. Then you have others, right? Other cartels and other government organizations, whatever, coalescing together and operating in the United States. And then you have the CIA, which is, and the FBI, which are their own, right? So when I hear the thing about the CIA and then I look at this, it just makes me think, yeah, man, I mean, why not? Why someone had to be turning a blind eye for all of this stuff to happen on this grand scale? Like, it takes help. It takes help.
You see, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers in 2011 and 2014 were sending Freedom of Information Act requests to the CIA, requesting all of the information in their file about Jeffrey Epstein helping the CIA throughout his career. The CIA ultimately responded with a letter that Epstein kept in his back pocket, essentially saying there are no public documents that we can turn over, and to the extent there are any classified documents, we're not able to make those available through Freedom of Information Act requests. Epstein did this in 2011 and 2014 and possibly later. You will also recall, based on our prior reporting, hat tip, by the way, to News 4 over in the UK as well, that there are likely 50 terabytes of information in the Epstein files that are still being withheld by the Trump regime. Many people thought maybe there's 3 million documents that have not been produced. And I'm not talking about the unredacted version of the unlawfully redacted version that the Trump regime made available recently, that lawmakers saw, and it has some horrific things in the unredacted version that are unlawfully redacted. We're talking about, in addition to that, potentially 100 million, 200 million other documents, because 50 terabytes like 100 million, 200 million files, maybe. We could be talking about billions of records. And that makes sense because we're talking about billions of dollars in financial transactions.
Right. So you see there, like the story has greatly expanded now. Now it's not 6 million files, it's 100 million files. Now and then, but just going back to the CIA thing. Just back to the CIA thing. Listen.
Republicans are panicking as Jeffrey Epstein's links to the CIA are becoming more and more clear as people look through the Epstein files. Hat tip to Jason Leopold at Bloomberg, who does an incredible job, and others who have helped locate these documents. But you see, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers in 2011 and 2014 were sending Freedom of Information Act requests to the CIA, requesting all of the information in their file about Jeffrey Epstein helping the CIA throughout his career. The CIA ultimately responded with a letter that Epstein kept in his back pocket, essentially saying there are no public documents that we can turn over, and to the extent there are any classified documents, we're not able to make those available through Freedom of Information Act requests. Epstein did this in 2011 and 2014 and possibly later. You will also recall, based on our prior reporting.
All right, so let me just play something here about just some details about that, right? This connection. Let's hear here.
As of February 2026, the unsealed Epstein files have moved the conversation about Epstein's intelligence ties from theory to a matter of official inquiry. New documents released by the DOJ this month contain thousands of references to top intelligence officials, most notably the current CIA director, William Burns. Here is the breakdown of what the 2026 records and ongoing investigations have revealed. 1. The William Burns, CIA Director, connection. Documents unsealed on February 4, 2026, revealed that William Burns had direct communications with Epstein while Burns was serving as Deputy Secretary of State, 2011 to 2014.
Okay.
The meetings.
So 2011 to 2014. I hope y'all check it. Are y'all hearing this shit? This is wild. Yeah, this is wild. Yo, I gotta look this up, man. Who was president at this time? Was Obama president at this time? I think so, right? And before Obama, who was president? Bush, right? Let me see here. Let me just, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up a different thing here. Let me see something. I just want to look that up also, just to be clear about it, to see who the president was. I'm just curious about that. Let me let this play also a little bit more. But damn, I'm so happy I bothered to check that out, because they're saying literally that the director of the CIA had contacts to Epstein in 2011 and 2014. Like the now director. See, let's get that straight. Let me see here. Who was president in 2000? Let me just make sure I get this totally right. 2011. Hold on. To 2000 and what? What does it say? 16 or 18? What is that? It says 2014, right? Let's do that. 14. I'm curious about this. I'm pretty sure it was Bush and Obama, right? Obama was the final 2 years of the first term, right? Okay, so it was Bush before that. So it was Bush 2 years. Hold on, final two. Hold on, what does it say? Obama was in the final 2 years of his first term, having been inaugurated. Okay, so it was Bush. I got it. It was Bush and Obama. Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear when I'm reading this. So let's go back. It says William Burns, CIA director's connection. Documents unsealed on February 4th, 2026, revealed that William Burns had direct communications with Epstein while Burns was serving as Deputy Secretary of State. Boom. Right. But he is the now CIA director. let's just make sure we got this correct. I mean, oh, hold on. Okay, so I'm glad I made that. Actually, no, as of January 20th, 2025, William Burns is no longer. Okay, so someone else was appointed right after this. So the current director of the CIA is John Ratcliffe, who was sworn in January 23rd. Okay, the reason why Burns is still making headlines in February 2026 is that he is currently a central figure in the House Oversight Committee's massive investigation into the federal government's handling of the. Now think about this. He was look, it says February 20. He is the current central figure in the House Oversight Committee. Former role, Burns served as a CIA director from 2021 until the end of Biden administration in early 2025. The Epstein file link. Let me just play this. Damn, this is getting really interesting. Yo, what it sounds like to me is that there's been people in it actively working to cover it up on all levels. Like, this is crazy. I don't know.
Actually, no. As of January 20th, 2025, William Burns is no longer the director of the CIA. The current director of the CIA is John Ratcliffe, who was sworn in on January 23rd, 2025. The confusion. The reason William Burns is still making headlines in February 2026 is that he is currently a central figure in the House Oversight Committee's massive investigation into the federal government's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. The former role, Burns served as CIA director from 2021 until the end of the Biden administration in early 2025. The Epstein files link. He is being scrutinized for meetings he had with Epstein between 2011 and 2014.
So listen to that. You see what I'm saying? So they're actually, this is crazy. They're actually saying, when people say, how come Democrats ain't do nothing about that? I don't know why it has to be about that. Is that the only cover up? The Democratic part of it? Like, a cover up is a cover up, and it takes people, regardless of their party. It takes people. And these people, you know, I don't even wonder if they're Democrat or Republican. I think this is CIA. Like, look, I mean, this is government people already, you know, involved with Epstein that are being given the lead of investigating Epstein. Isn't that another? We own the police. We own the DA. We own the FBI moment. I mean, to me, this seems really, really weird.
While he was Deputy Secretary of State. Active subpoenas. Just last month, January 2026, the House Oversight Committee issued a wave of subpoenas targeting former officials, including Burns, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton, to testify about their past connections to Epstein and why the CIA, FBI never fully investigated his network while they were in power. Why it matters now. The new CIA director, John Ratcliffe, has taken a much more aggressive stance on these files. On February 18, 2026, today, reports surfaced that Ratcliffe is complying with requests from lawmakers like Representative Nancy Mace to release previously classified CIA records regarding Epstein's alleged affiliation with the agency, dating back to 2011. Summary of key CIA figures, 2026, name. Current status. Connection to Epstein case. John Ratcliffe. Current CIA director. Declassifying files. Investigating past, protected status of Epstein. William Burns. Former CIA director. Under investigation for 2011 to 2014 meetings with Epstein. David Cohen. Former CIA deputy. Also cited in recent depositions regarding intelligence oversight gaps. Would you like me to check if William Burns has officially responded to the January 2026 subpoena for his testimony?
You know, this is so ironic, but yeah, it appears it appears like, to me, it just seems that way. I'm not saying it is, but it seems like there's potential that it could have been a cover up from those people, like that these people are part of some cover up. I mean, it appears that way to me, but you know.
As of February 18, 2026, William Burns has officially responded to the inquiries regarding his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, but his stance remains defensive. Here is the latest on his status and the ongoing investigation. 1. The official response. In response to the January 2026 subpoenas and the unsealed Epstein files, released earlier this month, a spokesperson for William Burns issued a formal statement. Deep regret. Burns stated he deeply regrets ever meeting Epstein. The expert defense.
No
He
doubt.
maintains he only knew Epstein as a financial services expert who was introduced to him by a mutual friend during a time when Burns was transitioning from the State Department to the private sector, around 2014. Denial of ongoing contact. His team asserts that once he became aware of Epstein's 2008 criminal conviction, he immediately cut all ties and had no further contact. 2. Contradictions in the 2026 files. The reason investigators are skeptical of this response is that the newly unsealed documents, released February 4, 2026, show a level of familiarity that contradicts a brief meeting. The apartment offer. Epstein texted Burns in 2014 offering him a private apartment to use in New York. While there is no proof Burns stayed there, the offer suggests Epstein felt comfortable enough to make it. The Bill texts. In several text chains, Epstein refers to him as Bill and suggests meetings with other billionaires, like Peter Thiel and Reid Hoffman. The ghost flight issue. One of the most serious allegations being looked at by the House Oversight Committee is why Epstein's calendar showed he planned for his private driver to take Burns to the airport, a detail Burns' spokesperson says he does not recall. 3. Testimony and next steps. Upcoming hearing. William Burns is currently on the witness list for a high-profile hearing scheduled for late March 2026. This hearing will focus on foreign influence and intelligence gaps.
It doesn't sound like a lot of attention is being given to this guy.
Regarding the Epstein network. Ratcliffe's role. Current CIA Director John Ratcliffe is reportedly cooperating with the committee. On February 15, 2026, the DOJ submitted a Section 3 report to Congress listing all government officials named in the files. This has placed significant pressure on Burns and other former officials to explain why Epstein appeared to have such high-level access. 4. The 2% controversy. Adding a layer of tension to this is a bombshell report from February 16, 2026, suggesting that while Attorney General Pam Bondi claims the government has released everything, investigators believe only 2% of the total seized data, out of 15 terabytes, has actually been made public.
Exactly.
Lawmakers are now demanding the remaining 98%, which they believe contains more direct evidence of the intelligence protection Epstein allegedly enjoyed. Would you like me to find the specific?
Exactly. So let's go back to Ben real quick. Here we go.
Hat tip, by the way, to News 4 over in the UK as well, that there are likely 50 terabytes of information in the Epstein files that are still being withheld by the Trump regime. Many people thought maybe there's 3 million documents that have not been produced. And I'm not talking about the unredacted version of the unlawfully redacted version that the Trump regime made available.
What's up,
recently,
Rainbow?
that lawmakers saw, and it has some horrific things in the unredacted version that are unlawfully redacted. We're talking about, in addition to that, potentially.
Yeah, where the hell is Bits? That's what I've been wondering. Where is Bits? I don't see Bits. Where you at, Bits? I hope you're okay. Where you at? I've been wondering exactly the same, Rainbow. Seriously.
100 million, 200 million other documents, because 50 terabytes, like 100 million, 200 million files maybe.
So 2% of the Epstein files have been released. Now they've updated. Now they believe it's 100 million files. And now you're hearing about Burns, the guy who had, as a DOJ dude, was communicating. I think they said DOJ was communicating with Epstein back in 2011, 14. And then he became the director of the CIA after that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and we're talking about the connections to the CIA, you know, direct or indirect with Jeffrey Epstein. And it could explain a lot, because it almost looks like the people that have been in charge of the stuff, like under Obama, under Biden, maybe, you know, under Bush, these are people that have been somewhat in, you know, in government, that have had roles that could have, you know, gone into this and explained or explored Epstein, didn't. And now, yeah, it's just, you know, it seems like you said, who said that? It looks they investigating themselves in Mandan. Exactly. Exactly. Looks like they're investigating themselves, totally. And
we could be talking about billions of records. And that makes sense because
this is taxpayer dollars, though. This is taxpayer money. This is where, you pay people that involve themselves in this kind of conduct, but you can't get health care out of the same goddamn government. Like, what's up? I don't get that.
Talking about billions of dollars in financial transactions that also went through the sex trafficking ring with the money laundering operation that was adjacent to it. But let me break all of this down. I'll show you what's going on in the MAGA Republican world and state regime media. Your mind's about to be blown, so make sure you watch the full video. And by the way, hit subscribe. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers. Help us get there. So
yeah, hit subscribe. Anybody that's not subscribed, I appreciate that. And click the like button too. I haven't said that, but yeah. Well,
for an example of what Trump, state regime media, MAGA Republicans don't want us talking about. It's things like this. Democratic Congress member James Walkinshaw from Virginia. We've had him on the Midas Touch Network before. Here he talks about reviewing some of the redacted Epstein files in the unredacted facility at the Department of Justice headquarters. He goes, when you read these, it's clear that Trump never kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. That's all a lie. It's clear that Epstein was always a guest and was someone who could go back to Mar-a-Lago whenever. Watch what Walkinshaw says here. Play this clip.
I read a redacted document, illegally redacted in my view, where Epstein's lawyers had spoken to Trump, and Trump made it clear that he never kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago. Why does he keep lying? Why has he done everything in his power to cover this up? Those are important questions, not to take away from any of the other individuals involved here.
And then you have
and the only person that can get all those files released is the people that work for Trump right now. The people that Trump appointed. This is their job right now to release those files, and they're doing a very poor job at it. And there's no one else that can be blamed right now for that job. Not right now,
Jason Leopold wrote about how Epstein filed FOIA requests with the CIA requesting documents regarding his affiliations with the CIA between 1999 and
No, I didn't hear about that, Rainbow. Let me check that out.
2011, and the NSA for documents relating or referring to himself. Epstein didn't receive any records. He got letters back basically saying, we can't return classified information. Here's the letter from July 29th, 2011 from the CIA to Epstein. Okay, this is not me going.
What? CIA to Epstein? Oh my goodness. Hold on. Let me go back to this. What the hell? I have to make this bigger. I need to see this. Let me see here. They got a letter from Epstein, from the CIA to Epstein. All right, now let me see if I can also read this here. If I get it, make it bigger. Can I get it bigger? Maybe I can't. Let me see. Okay, I think I can if I do it like this. Hello? Oh, there it is. Okay, so it says here, this is from Martin G. Weinberg, PC, attorney at law, 20 Park Plaza, Suite 1000, Boston, Massachusetts, 02116, reference number P-2011-00673. Dear Mr. Weinberg, on the 25th of July 2011, the Office of the Information and Privacy Coordinator received your letter dated 19 July 2011 providing additional information pertaining to your client, Jeffrey Epstein. Privacy Act request referenced above. Okay. Since you have provided the necessary information, we processed Mr. Epstein's request in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and the Privacy Act. We searched for all CIA originated responsive records that might reflect an open and otherwise acknowledged agency affiliation existing from November 5th, 1999, the date of our previous acceptance letter in reference number P-1999-02450 to the 25th of July 2011, the date we accepted Mr. Epstein's current request. Okay, we were unable to locate any information or records. Okay, so that's okay. So this letter happened July 29, 2011 to the CIA. You can see that, obviously. Maybe you can't, but you will see it in a second. It's the letterhead at the top of this email or this mail. Okay, with respect to the responsive records that would reveal a classified connection to the CIA, in accordance with the Section 30.6A of Executive Order 13526, an amendment, the CIA can neither confirm or deny, an existence or non-existence of records responsive to your request. So they don't deny or they don't claim either way. They can't answer the question. The fact of the existence or non-existence of requested records is currently improperly classified, right, as and is intelligence, sources, and methods information that is protected from disclosure by Section 6 of the CIA Act of 1949 as amended, and Section 102A I-1 of the National Security Act of 1947 as amendment. Therefore, you may consider this portion of the response a denial of your request pursuant of FOIA exceptions B1 and B3 and PA exceptions J1 and K1. I have enclosed an explanation for these exemptions for your reference and retention. Although our searches were thorough and diligent, and it is highly unlikely that repeating those searches would change the result, you nevertheless have the legal right to appeal the decisions above. As the CIA Information and Privacy Coordinator, I am a CIA official responsible for this determination. Oh, I am the official responsible for this determination. You have the right to appeal this response within 45 days of the date of this letter. You may address your appeal to the agency release panel. In my care, please explain the basis of your appeal. Yeah, so damn, that seems like they're basically saying, yeah. That looks like they're saying, yeah. You know, basically that they do have a connection to Jeffrey Epstein. And yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. Obviously, it seems very concerning, and it seems like the American people should want to know what's being done in their name and with their tax dollars. That's basically where I'm at with this. Whatever it is, whatever the reasoning was, doesn't really matter. What matters is what was done, who was harmed, that the people that were harmed get justice, even if it's just the general American people. Like whatever was done in the American people's name that has harmed the America's status in the world, that has harmed the safety of American citizens in our own country, any damage, any of that, you know, people have to be made accountable for that. And yeah. Not withstanding also any other crime that was committed in accordance with it, right? So, but in any case, let me just
going into some conspiratorial territory. I'm reading for you the letter from the CIA to Epstein's lawyer, Martin G. Weinberg. Dear Mr. Weinberg,
yeah, I already
and it
did
says,
that. So let me see.
In accordance with Section 3. Intelligence.
All right.
July 30th, 20. You nevertheless have a legal right to appeal the decision, and it's signed the Information Privacy Coordinator of the CIA. Then on July 30th, 2014, This was sent to Mr. Indike, one of Epstein's representative. This replies to your letter dated March 5th, 2014, appealing on behalf of your client, Jeffrey Epstein, the National Security Agency, Central Security Services, denial of his request of a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act records, files, communications, memorandum, orders, and agreements, and or instructions referring to or related from Mr. Epstein that were created from January 1, 2000 to January 2, 2014, and were prepared, received, transmitted, collected, and or maintained by the National Security Agency. I have reviewed this request and your letter of appeal. As a result of my review, I have concluded that the appropriate response is to continue to neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of any intelligence material on the subject of your client's request pertaining to any NSA CSS intelligence programs or activities, including to programs authorized under Section 215 of the U.S. Patriot Act and Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act amended. To do otherwise would challenge under FOIA, would result in the exposure of intelligence information, sources, and methods which could harm our national security and severely undermine NSA CSS activities in general. For example, if NSA CSS denied having information in cases where we had no such information but remained silent in cases in which the information existed, it would tend to reveal in which activities NSA and CSS were engaged. Any further elaboration concerning these matters would reveal information that is currently and properly classified. Why aren't more people talking about this? I mean, hat tip to Jason Leopold.
Yo, that is crazy. That is crazy. And, well, there it is. So I would think this in particular, speaks to the politicized nature of the, what's gone on, the narrative of what's gone on in the last, 8 years regarding Epstein and this whole narrative that's very toxic, political, right? The nature of the discussions, this seems to kind of clear all of that up. If you ask me, it's not an issue of what political party you're with. It's more of an issue of national security, espionage, blackmail, and and people being, complicit in it that are a part of government, right? And people that are, on different ways, and also aristocrats. You heard Peter Thiel's name get mentioned again. You heard Elon Musk's name get mentioned again. I mean, to me, it seems like there's a lot of bad things that have gone on in the name of the American people. And people just have to understand that if there is going to be any justice coming to the American people or any victim of Epstein, direct or indirect victims, all the American people are indirect victims. All citizens are indirect victims, but also the direct victims, the ones that were trafficked, and all the victims of all the other crimes that go along with that trafficking, right? So because obviously there's more than just those direct traffic victims. They're just their family members. There's other people that have been threatened to be silenced, that they heard something, you shouldn't talk, this kind of stuff, and all the other crimes associated. There's many things associated with it. So to me, I'm happy with this, because it means people won't be able to go along and discuss it as a Democrat Republican thing or an independent. There's also independent party people involved too. You know what I'm saying? And let's be honest. Are billionaires Democrat or Republican? Are they really? Is that your assessment, that there's billionaire Democrats and then there's billionaire Republicans? Not really. I think some might be like that, but I think it's more right wing or corruption based, if you ask me, tax based, making sure that the rich, the billionaires, get their way all the time, no matter who they are, But let me see here. Rainbow says, then there was the trans woman who up in a school in Canada. I'm genuinely terrified of the blame that will be put on the trans community, even though it was one person's. Oh, no, I didn't hear about that yet. Rainbow. But people are people also at the same time. You know, it's not always a matter of what somebody's, other intersections are. You know, at the end of the day, we all intersect on the human level. So, and humans have issues, you know. So it's not always what your ethnicity is behind a crime, or your gender behind a crime, or, or these kind of things. It's not always that. Sometimes it could just be you're a human being in a human situation, or something else happened. Maybe the person loses their mind one day out of stress for other reasons. You never know what's behind events, It's terrible. But in any case, I'm going to be out. It's been a good live. Actually, it wasn't too many people. I see me coming in late and all of that kind of fucks up the algorithm. But nonetheless, I wanted to do this stream. It's an important stream. And as you hear, it changes everything. What people knew about the Epstein files is over. Now this is much bigger now. And but nonetheless, American people can only do what American people can do about this. Other states are stepping up, firing people from government, prosecuting people that committed crimes according to the Epstein files, these kind of things. The United States government still is not ready to do that. So on that note, oh man, I just think it's really, it's some shit for you. It's some shit for you, taxes. This is what paying taxes is like, when you're an American citizen. It's crazy. But in any case, I'm going to be out, y'all. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Those of you that come in and hear the stream later, click like, click subscribe, share the video. I appreciate it. I'm going to get back to y'all in, 8 hours. See ya. And peace, Trump. Fuck Trump. And peace, Trump,
They
yo.
want war. Crime babies looking for food. Starvation, the recipe. People subdued. When the people you trust got it in for you. Deceit is the word of the day and every clue. Don't let it go. It's from the days of old. Time is up, but some still do not know. Can I make up my mind? Is it worth the dime? Do I have to take a minute just to make it mine? Life's never fair, but don't listen to the TV. Go out and take a listen to the streets with the people in the slums and the homeless bums with degrees and degrees sitting under a tree. It's not easy in the world for the poor man, the one that brought you to reality. See, they don't want you to know about the black sheep. Leaving 7 roads to the 12 families all around the globe with an ancient code. Is it really asking a lot to say a death old? Cause we sitting on the earth looking back at extinct, and I'm standing on some ground that's about to sink. I ain't scared for a minute, I ain't about to blink, but I documented for the world what I see and think. Feel we on the call and up and we on the break. All Congress gonna do is waste paper and ink. Vote or die. You voted and you'll die. You can have it both ways, can't say it's a lie. You can march all you want, but they playing you wrong. They only understand war, it's the same old song. They want war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. Like a lotus coming out of the mud with colors, I create envy in those with power but jealous. I unify the poor with my song, the hell with the others. Descended the way they treat indigenous brothers, cause I understand we link forever. They try to hate us even though that we keep it together. I'm not talking about controlling the air or the weather. I'm talking about maintaining the truth, the high endeavor. A rebel drops bombs in the midst of trouble. The free world counterattack, and now there's double. But nature gets the shit in a way to settle. If you stop the machines for a minute, you might hear, but they won't, cause the TVs whisper in the ear. And capitalism has eyes that don't tear, and they cloud up and get crazy and won't stare. And like an ad, it's hard to get an ass to listen. Living like this is like living in prison. It's hard to keep hope when you're living in prison. The spiritual thoughts, so yes, the mental prison. The outside, yes, it's got to get through. Something's gotta die, so something here can live. Your life is nothing if you got nothing to give. Keeping the spiritual, yes, disguised as religion. Controlling your mind, the mental prison. They want war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. All they really want is a war. Diversionary tactic to make the big score. The diamonds in the morning, they want more, but they wanna keep you low, so they manifest the war. think about. Does love still exist? Yeah, I have my doubts. On the street, I check out how brothers be living. Yo, let's just say, kid, it ain't no Thanksgiving. We got people shooting dope, ain't never heard of hope. We got others with the gat and the brothers with the fucking scope. As I enter the project center rec rooms, some brothers might see the doom. I see my nigga Paulo, fat pockets of papes. He knows the neighborhood biddies with all the dopest shapes. There goes Rollo with the blowout fro. He's got a gap, ayo niggas gots to go. No show is live with narrating, fuck Memorex. My nigga Rollo's got a gat at Paulo's chest. One slug blasted out, down boy died. Now show me some love, kid, it sounds like a fucking yes, you know lie. the struggle goes on, people trying to survive, hold on. But we know it's been so long, pain without a limit, so wrong. Sometimes I think how the world come to this, a place where every man and woman needs a therapist. Mass confusion, people living in delusion, justify all the bullshit through the Constitution. Meanwhile, the masses struggle to survive. I think we're too busy to hear our people's cries. Single mothers struggle to raise families, genocide committed through famine and disease. I wonder if these things will ever cease to exist. I know it could if we cease and desist. Giving all the power to the industrialists, giving all our power to the damn commercialists. They see us just as being sheep in this world, that want us to do what we're told like boys and girls. Oh God, I wanna live another day so I can help provide equality and this yes, day. You know, the struggle goes on, people trying to survive, hold on. Though we know it's been so long, pain without a limit, so wrong. Everybody around the globe, open up your earlobe, your third eye, and then decipher the code. Through knowledge, understanding, then bring love into the concept instead of bling bling. Truth instead of biased educational methods, twisting, contorting God's message of love for every human being. Listen, motherfucker, don't you hear the screams? It's time to do much more than talk, debate, and spread hate. We need to think and at the same time investigate, understand what our actions may create. Before continuing the cycle we procreate, we can clone humans, but at the same time we can't feed humans. The future of man is actually looming. It's really depressing, it's true. And yes, you know the struggle goes on, people trying to survive, hold on.